Hello everybody, my name is Dave Jackson, and this is Tales from the Backlog, where each week I'm joined by a guest to deep dive a game from our backlogs. Today's game is Dragon Quest V, Hand of the Heavenly Bride. But before we get into that, first, a few things. If this is your first time here, watching or listening, first of all, thank you for stopping by. Here's how spoilers work. We're not going to spoil the story of Dragon Quest V for quite some time. We'll talk about as much as we can without story spoilers, and then we'll warn you when those spoilers are coming. So if you don't want that, you'll know when to get out. There's also timestamps down in the show notes for when the spoilers will start flying. And also, if you like the show, please consider supporting on Patreon, patreon.com/RealDaveJackson, telling a friend, leaving a review, likes and comments on YouTube, yada, yada, yada. It's all very helpful, and I appreciate it very much. But I'm not here alone today to talk about Dragon Quest V. I have a returning guest, a good friend of the show, host of Retro Hangover podcast, and envoy of the goddess. Welcome back, Chris Coplien.
Hey, thanks for having me back. This is one of the games I've always wanted to talk about on a long-term podcast, and I've kind of talked about it in the past over on our show, but I think this is the first time I'm actually really getting into it. So thank you for the opportunity. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely, yeah. This is the first Dragon Quest game on the podcast, but it's not the first time that Chris here is on the show. We have quite a few episodes in the archives together. So the first one was Spec Ops: The Line. That's episode 42. Signalis was episode 93. We had a roundtable discussion about critiquing retro games in the modern age. That was in February of 2024. No episode number. And then it's interesting laying all those out because Spec Ops: The Line, not really a Chris game, at least on the surface. Signalis, maybe not really a Chris game on the surface. Yeah. I mean, you liked both of those games a lot.
I did, yeah.
But then we got into your shit. Final Fantasy IV, episode 133, and then today, Dragon Quest V, which I wanted to play because of hearing you and the King of Games panel talk about it. So I think this is going to be a really fun one to discuss.
Oh, I agree. I just realized now I've been on 4 Tales from the Backlog episodes, and I'm just like, wow, where's the time gone? This is incredible.
I know, right?
But my favorite Final Fantasy game and my favorite Dragon Quest game, and I both get to talk about them here. So maybe that's a little bit of a spoiler, but there you go.
That's okay. So again, today's game, Dragon Quest V, Hand of the Heavenly Bride. It's an RPG. It was developed by Chunsoft and published by Enix for the Super Famicom in Japan in 1992, not released outside of Japan. Then remakes started coming out. First by a name I've never said out loud before, Arte Piazza for the PS2 in 2004. Again, only in Japan. And then finally released outside of Japan for the Nintendo DS in 2006. Arte Piazza. Love the name of the developer there. It's a great studio name.
I just like saying Piazza. So any combination. I didn't know how you were going to say it because I didn't know either. It's either Arte Piazza or Arte Piazza. I don't know.
I chose to stylize it a little bit as much as I can. Director of the game is Manabu Yamana, and producer is Yukinobu Chida. We'll have more credits as we go through for Dragon Quest, including the big names: Akira Toriyama, Koichi Sugiyama, and Yuji Horii, of course. So, elevator pitch time. What is Dragon Quest V? If you don't know what this game is, thank you for clicking on the show. I say, for my pitch, so you thought Dragon Quest stories were all bubblegum fairy tales. Check out Dragon Quest V. Chris, what would you say?
I would say it's a classic JRPG that simultaneously meets and subverts expectations and tropes.
Fantastic. Stats and where we played this. I played the DS version. It took me 30 hours to get through. Which version did you play? How long was your playtime?
I started with the Super Famicom, Super Nintendo version, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I think I made it about 15 hours in, and then it decided to erase my save data. That was awesome. And so I restarted with the PlayStation 2 version, and that took me about 40 hours.
Nice. Sucks that the save got deleted, but it was a good chance, I guess, to check out the PS2 version. Have you played the DS version before?
Yes. That was the first version I played. Well, not the first version I played. I played the Super Famicom version a long time ago, but it's the version I remember the most fondly. That's the version that really made me click with this game.
Okay, cool. Well, we're getting into personal histories here, and you have a much longer history with this game, and you
Mhm.
probably have a much longer history with Dragon Quest than I do.
Mm.
So tell the people, how did you get into the series, and then what was it about, or I guess, when did you first play Dragon Quest V? Why did you want to play it?
Well, first getting into the series, I mean, I don't, depends on what your definition of getting into is, because I first played the series like a lot of people who had a Nintendo back in the day, just kind of by circumstance. I didn't have a Nintendo Power subscription. I think I was over at a friend's house. I played the original Dragon Quest for a little bit and just kind of whatever, dismissed it. I got into a little bit of a collecting phase when I was a late teenager, around 16, 17, 18 years old, which is a weird time to get into collecting. That was early 2000s. If I didn't join the military, I'd probably be one of those YouTube collectors, like so many you see, but that wasn't in the cards. But I started getting more into the Dragon Quest series then, and I had all 4 games for the NES somehow, back when they were still relatively affordable. And that's kind of where it was from there. But specifically this game, because it did not come out in the United States, I think my interest got reinvigorated with, as many Dragon Quest fans had with Dragon Quest VIII, when that game came out, I think in either 2005 or 2006. And of course, the reason that a lot of people bought that is because it came with the Final Fantasy XII demo.
Oh,
and
okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, big Final Fantasy head, you got to go check out what's coming out.
Right.
And that kind of reinvigorated my love for the series, whatever you would want to call it, a love for the series at that time. So I think when I went on, it wasn't a deployment, but it was a deployment. We called it a surge, where you just take a group of people and you detach them away from their home unit out to a deployable area. And I brought my laptop with me, and I was downloading I had the downloaded fan translations of both Dragon Quest V and Dragon Quest VI. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to play these games. I played Dragon Quest VI after Dragon Quest V, and I don't want to talk about Dragon Quest VI today. Not really worth talking about, in my opinion, too much. Not this bad game, it's just not my type of game. But I remember playing through Dragon Quest V and just being really enamored with it. But I can't remember whether or not I beat it. The next year, I was deployed again. And somehow I would say somehow, because it's obvious, a game comes out, you buy it. Sorry. A game comes out, you buy it. And Dragon Quest V came out. I was like, okay, I've been looking forward to playing this game for a while. Picked it up when it came out, played through it, and just was absolutely in love with it. And ever since then, as you may have heard from the King of Games 1992 and many other sources, have really been putting out to people who will give classic RPGs a chance, especially on the Super Nintendo. You got to try out Dragon Quest V, because it's one of those, in my opinion, again, getting ahead of probably a lot of this episode, but in my opinion, one of the foundational RPGs of the genre and of the era. And I think it's something that anyone who's a fan of either of your Final Fantasy, turn-based RPGs, or any of the like, it's one of those games that you have to play.
Yeah, I agree with you. Kind of slotting right alongside, if I remember right from our other episode, Final Fantasy IV was 91 or something like that.
Yes.
So yeah, like right side by side, they kind of fit together as like a 2-piece foundation in my eyes. And I don't have the extensive history with RPGs outside of Final Fantasy and now Dragon Quest V back then, but it makes sense in my head because they fit into very similar lanes. But would it surprise you, Chris? I think it would, and everybody else, that I was thinking back, I don't think I heard of Dragon Quest at all as a series until maybe Dragon Quest XI. I mean, I'm sure that I heard the words Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior, but Dragon Quest XI came out and was getting a bunch of, really, really buzz bigger than I had ever heard from the series. And I kind of was like, oh, right. I guess that's a thing that's been going on for a long time now. It was like so far off my radar that, yeah, I never heard of it. You mentioned, I think 8's a pretty big one on the PS2, right? But I didn't have a PS2. My friends who had PS2s were all about the Final Fantasy games. I never heard about Dragon Quest ever. So maybe I read about it or something, but yeah, all that to say, I'm very new to the series. My first one was Dragon Quest XI. I played about 30, 40 hours of it and got bored and put it down and swore that I would never play a Dragon Quest game again because I just was like, there's nothing here for me. I didn't get it. And then it wasn't until the King of Games 1992 on your show on Retro Hangover, where Dragon Quest V made a pretty good run through that tournament, exceeding expectations, I think, and exceeding its seeding in the tournament for sure. And the way you all talked about it just made it sound like actually, even if you didn't, really love Dragon Quest XI, this one sounds different. It sounds substantial enough that I felt like I needed to play it. So it was on my backlog resolutions list for this year. And it's basically because of the run in the King of Games. And I agree with you. As we said, it feels like a foundational piece for RPGs, and especially I feel like storytelling in RPGs, I can kind of see a turning point as I play more and more of them in the early 90s, where a lot of these games, I guess, started to really put an emphasis on trying to tell emotional stories. And this one's not as character-based as Final Fantasy IV was, but the emotion is definitely there in this game. And I really, really liked it. When we get to talking about gameplay, there's going to be some stuff where I'm just like, yeah, it's functional, it's okay. But the point of this is that cozy vibe that I've always heard about with Dragon Quest. And I want to like it. I want to be in it like the way a lot of people seem to be. This game allowed me to get into that kind of rhythm and vibe of it. But also, it's not just coasting on vibes. I think that there's actually really, really good storytelling going on in the game too. And there's comparisons with other RPGs I've played recently that try to do similar things, but don't do it nearly as well as Dragon Quest V did. And that's what I'm really interested in talking about, especially when we get to the spoiler section here. So overall, it definitely feels like an older RPG, especially in the combat and stuff. But the things that matter the most, I think, are really, really great. And so I'm happy to say I get Dragon Quest now. I get it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I could take what I've gotten from Dragon Quest V and try Dragon Quest XI again, try some of those other ones that I never tried before. So this is the gateway. I'm really happy to have played this.
That's awesome to hear. I hope you try out more.
Yeah.
Try 4 maybe. 4 is another favorite of mine. Mm-hmm. And I love 7. Don't play 7.
Love it, but don't play it. Okay, fair enough.
Don't play it. You'll probably hate it.
Yeah.
It's 110 hours.
Jesus Christ. Well, so is 11. So,
That's not doing any extra stuff.
Oh, no. Oh, boy. Well, any other top level thoughts about 5 here before we get into it proper?
I mean, not really. I think we'll cover most of it in the discussion because it's the nature of the type of game it is. So, whenever you're ready, I'm ready to talk about it.
All right, let's do it. Well, let's listen to a bit of music from Dragon Quest V, and then when we come back, we're going to set up the story. The story in Dragon Quest V is primarily credited to Yuji Horii, and really interesting story setup right off the bat for 5. The game literally begins with your character being born. You get to name your character, and for a while you play as a little kid. In these games, from what I understand and my experience with 11, you always play as the hero, right? And in this one, you're just a little kid. Your dad is the badass hero. His name is Pankraz. I'm going to pronounce it that way. he has a mysterious past, as did your mom, who died a long time ago. But you're following your dad around on a quest that he's on. And you don't really know what's going on because you're a little kid. You're just happy to be following your dad around, I suppose. And I'm going to stop there as far as like what the story setup is. But I will say that the game follows your character through several different generations, from, you're a little kid to a young adult to a full adult, an old adult, not an old adult, but it follows you through these different time periods throughout as you learn more about your family's past and, of course, prevent a big threat in the current day. So I think this is a really cool story structure for the game and a really cool way to start you out, where you're just this little kid following your dad, who is actually the powerful one.
Yeah, it's a great way to kind of force in the tutorial mode without calling it a tutorial mode. That's kind of how the game starts. And you see all this because, your dad is leading you from town to town. You don't have any control when you're in your first initial battles and gaining levels. Your father, who in my version was Papas, neither here nor there. Names change. There's a lot of differences between the versions in terms of town names and character names and whatever. But that it's showing you kind of how to play the game, which if you think about it, they didn't really need to do that, considering it never left Japan. I'm kind of getting the mechanics. I'm going to put that to the side till we get to it. But the Japanese knew how to play Dragon Quest by this point. It was a massive success. But the fact that here you are in a new generation of hardware, because this is the first game released on in the series for the Super Famicom, that this is like a great way for someone who's never played a Dragon Quest game before to get introduced to it without anyone really thinking about it. Like, hey, we're going to guide you, show you how the battle system works, show you how leveling up works, show you what happens when you get hurt works. And it's doing it all through a narrative environment that's, I think, quite frankly, for the time, brilliant. I can't think of any other RPG that was really doing that, and really hand-holding the player without completely making you feel dumb. Yeah, because there are those kind of games from like Mystic Quest kind of makes you feel dumb when you step back and you look at everything else that was out at the time. But also to the story point, other games had done generational aspects as being as vague as possible here. Like Phantasy Star 3 did it, and that was its selling point. I mean, the subtitle for Phantasy Star 3 is Generations of Doom, but that game is considered one of the black sheep of that series. And I'm sure there was other JRPGs that came out in Japan that I have little familiarity with, probably on the PC 88 or 98, because there's a lot of games that came out there. But in the console space, like Phantasy Star 3 kind of did it first. It's just that this game, I feel, really executed it well in terms of how important that was in terms of the overall narrative and how it all tied together. So everything in terms of the storytelling here, it's you're right in the fact that it kind of feels cozy and it sets it up in a very cozy manner. But it does take its twists and turns, and it's better for it.
It does. Yeah. I think that storyline through the generations and all the twists and turns and good times and bad times is the real heart of the story here, even though if you were to list out like what's the plot, who's the antagonist of Dragon Quest V, it's not really, I mean, it's like it's connected, of course, but it's kind of a separate little storyline there, where you have your very personal storyline throughout all of these years that also ties into this rising evil threat in the story. But the personal storyline with your character and your family is so well done and so compelling, in my opinion, that other storyline could be anything. It almost doesn't matter who the antagonist is. It could be literally anything, because the most important thing about the story is what happens when you're a little kid and what happens when you're like a teenager, and then what happens as an adult a little time later. Like, that's the secret sauce of this story. It's really good.
Yeah, I still think the antagonist is important, because the antagonist is a driving factor for what your character is doing. Right, and it is a driving factor for the decisions your character makes later in the game. Yeah. So that antagonistic drive is important. But I think you're 100% correct in that that's not the focus. the focus is the interpersonal relationships that your character develops over the course of time.
Yeah.
And your protagonist's experiences and how that contributes to the drive to what is going on with the antagonistic factor kind of in the background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really does, like that story about the big bad really takes a back seat for a lot of the story, because it is really about your character and your family and whoever is in the party, maybe the monsters you collect and stuff like that too.
Right.
But that stuff is so well done. Bring it back to the beginning section of the game when you're a little kid and you're talking about how the game kind of tutorializes you without, doing it the way we think of tutorials in video games today. I didn't even think about it as a tutorial because it was so natural within the story at the beginning. You're a little kid following your dad, and it's gamified really well too, because you're a little kid. You can't fight monsters, but your dad absolutely just like wrecks everything because he's this legendary warrior, apparently. And you feel that when you are in combat. And then there's some stuff earlier in that, or later in that section, where you're fighting without your dad, and it's a lot harder because he's not there to kill everything in one hit anymore. And the way that all of these things tie together, I mean, gameplay comes in to tie in with the story in that part, is really, really well done. And again, not going to say too much about what happens specifically until the spoiler section, but the way that your character's situation changes throughout time and different people come into their life or leave their life is just, it's super unique as far as the games I've played. Like, I play a lot of RPGs. There's, I think that this game was probably influential for a lot of RPGs, and especially later on, there's a lot that I think directly inspired Pokemon from this game, and not just monster collecting. But
right.
I don't see a lot of games trying to tell this like super affecting multi-generational story in this same way anymore, and it's just really, really cool.
Well, I don't know, as you said, that sparked it, but one of the other things that I really love about this game's story is that a lot of JRPGs, like the first section of a game's story, you could say the first third or first half, whatever, you can pretty much bunch that up and kind of toss it into the bin. It's all kind of mindless exposition for you to get to know the characters. And I guess I'm mostly thinking about Final Fantasy here, where like the second half of the game's story is almost completely disconnected from the character's motivations in the first half of a game.
Yeah, story. It's like, scope gets raised, evil is at a power you couldn't have imagined earlier in the game, stuff like that,
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's almost like you think of Final Fantasy VII when you're running around Midgard. Does that really matter when you're trying to go fight Sephiroth at the end of the game?
Right. Yeah.
Not really. It's almost inconsequential, all the things you did at Midgard at the beginning of the game. But that's not how Dragon Quest V is. Like, everything is building, and you can reflect on those moments at the beginning of the game, at the end of the game, at the middle of the game. You can relate it in one way or another. And that's not something you typically see in gaming in general. Like, you're right. Like, the scope increases, and everything that happened within the first couple levels, whether it be an RPG, whether it be an action game, whether it be a narrative game, a lot of the time that gets dismissed to just build to the climax up to the end of the game. Whereas this game emphasizes, pay attention. Like, pay attention to the world around you and what's happening. And it will build, and you become more fulfilled with what is happening within the world of Dragon Quest V.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You carry the events of the first 5 to 10 hours with you throughout the rest of the game. And it's like, it means a lot as you go on and as things change. And then you are getting to something there where you see the world change around you too, because you go through these different generations and you see how this, like, you'll visit the same towns in all of these time periods in a lot of cases, and you see how they change. Some, get better, some get worse. And it's really cool and well done. It's a little bit limited in like how much they can show you, I guess we'll say, even on the DS version, maybe in the PS2 version. But you see the changes. Like, obviously, this town's much worse for wear after what happened at the end of the last act, for example. And then you'll see that for the rest of the game. Or this town has a new ruler, and the ruler is better than the old ruler, and the town is doing better now. Like, you'll really you'll really notice those things because you visit the places repeatedly, because you spend so much time in some of these places. And some of these characters are the more important side characters in the game, so you'll go talk to them more often and stuff like that. So that's another thing that I think the generational story does really well as well.
No, absolutely. There's not much more I can comment there because I agree 100% with everything you're saying. It does it in an extraordinary manner, especially considering where this is kind of in the time frame of narrative RPG development. It's
right.
Yeah, it's done really well.
Right. And like just looking at the DS version, I don't think, even though it's a remake on much more powerful hardware, I don't think that it, really embellished a lot of stuff. It still feels pretty quaint in a lot of cases, but within the limitations, I think that they must have deliberately decided we're not going to make this as insane looking as we could have, or something like that. Like, it feels like we still want this to be very reminiscent of that original game, which I've seen, screenshots of. Pretty simple game, early Super Nintendo. So yeah, it's like within those constraints, they show all these things. They make you feel them really well. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, if I'm going to be talking about the presentation here and how it looks visually, if you're playing the Super Nintendo version, you're going back to playing it, and you think it looks like shit, you're probably right. I'm not going to glaze up. Is that what the kids say? I think that's what they say now. Glazing.
This is the source for what the kids are saying. Is this show? Yeah. Yes,
absolutely. Tales from the Backlog for your modern day generational dictionary. Anyway, it does not look good, especially if you compare it to Final Fantasy IV, which was released a year before, or Final Fantasy V, which was released the same year. It's not a looker. And I think all the ports honor that, for lack of a better term. The PlayStation 2 version looks fine. It doesn't look bad, but it's a 2004 release. If you compare that to like Final Fantasy X, come on, just stop. It's nowhere near the same in terms of comparison. It looks kind of like a budget title, if all things are being fair. It's not trying to like pour all of its money into the graphical budget. I don't think that would be right anyway for a Dragon Quest game, just kind of looking at its history, particularly after 6. I've heard 11 looks good. I've played a little bit of 11, looks fine.
It looks good, but it's also not, it's not the best looking 3D RPG, even from the year it released. Like, I think that there is a deliberate, like, we're reining in how much we're going to spend on making this look ridiculous,
Yeah. Yeah. And if you understand that Dragon Quest 7 came out in 2000 here in the United States, or 2001, I actually think. 2001. It looks like a Super Nintendo game. So, like, the visual presentation, well, it couldn't be done on the Super Nintendo, obviously, but the visual presentation is not the target goal of Dragon Quest. I don't think it ever has been. I don't think it ever will be. But is it serviceable? I think the DS version is the best way visually. If you wanted like the best visual presentation, the animations look really good. The sprites look brilliant.
Yeah.
It looks like, I try to say this with some retro games when they remaster them and they look significantly better than the original. It looks like what someone who had originally played it remembered it to look like. Yeah. That's the impression I get from Dragon Quest V on the DS. So I really think, like, if you're going for a visual standpoint, if you want like the most faithful while still looking good, go with the DS version. But all the other ones, like on the PS2 and Super Nintendo, Super Famicom, whatever, it's not the best looker, and don't expect it to be. It's going to be far from the most impressive.
Right. So that's kind of what I was getting at there, is like, in none of these versions did they decide we're going to try to really emphasize the story and this passage of time or these big events through insane visuals. It's just not a thing that any of the versions really did, but they still hit really well, because I think that, and it's not even like that the dialogue is great. It's okay. But just the way that they kind of build up to big things that happen in the story is really, really masterfully done. Even though, and I do agree with you, the DS version looks great. I think that like the best thing about the visuals in the game are the monster designs, the character portraits, all the Akira Toriyama artwork. Like that shit is awesome. But other aspects of visual presentation are just clearly not, you know, a way that they're trying to tell the story, which is fine. It works really well without it.
Also, I noticed I jumped ahead straight into the presentation.
It's all right.
I used to want to,
I brought
but
it up.
you did. But I mean, you're 100% correct. Like the focus was definitely on the narrative storytelling here, and I think that's what Yuji Horii was going for, as he was somewhat known for doing going into his history. But yeah, go with the DS version. It pays. The PS2, both the PS2 and the DS version, the animation of the characters was the biggest jump because they're not animated in the Super Famicom version.
Okay, yeah.
They're still images when you're like on a battlefield. Seeing all them animated is always a good time. That's always I always appreciate seeing that.
Yeah, the animation's fantastic in the DS version. I wanted to talk about that for sure. One other thing about presentation, just to kind of throw this out there, because I haven't really had a chance. I don't know that I've done a game in the HD 2D graphic style on the show yet, so I've never talked about it. I was thinking about this as Dragon Quest 1 through 3 are all getting the HD 2D remake treatment, and so, you know, they're going to finish those and people are going to go, okay, 4, 5, 6, that's next in the treatment here. I played the DS version and I was like, this is just like perfect pixel art. I love the way this game looks. And I like the HD 2D look, but I don't need everything to look like that. And it's kind of a trend within, especially Square Enix, to just be like, oh, pixel art, hit that button, you know, HD 2D remake, let's go, baby. And I just kind of like, I hope that if this game gets remade, and I hope it does, because more people need to be able to play this game outside of the DS or fan translations. And I hope that they stick with this pixel art style. I think it looks incredible, and not that an HD 2D would look bad, but it doesn't have to be the only way that pixel art is made modern, if that makes sense.
No, I tend to agree, and I think you see that with the Suikoden remasters, the Lunar remasters coming out.
Yeah.
Especially with both of them coming out to great acclaim from fans. They're not bitching about the fact that it's not in a new graphical style.
Right.
They're happy with just getting the game again. And I think you could do that with Dragon Quest V. Now, what the Japanese appreciate, because that's the target market here, let's not lie to ourselves. What the Japanese appreciate, you know, the PS2 version or the DS version, I don't know. I think it would be better if we got the DS version personally, just because I think that goes back more to the lineage of what Dragon Quest is. But I would love to see this available on more modern consoles, just because you're right. Now that I really think about it, the most accessible way to an English language speaker or anyone outside Japan really is to play it on the DS, and that's assuming you're not emulating.
Right. And the DS version's not cheap. So
it is not cheap. I own a copy, and every single time I look at the price of it, I'm like, I'm glad I got it when I did.
Yeah.
Because I would not be buying it now. That's for damn sure. So but in terms of if they made it this HD 2D approach, I don't think I would be offended. I think I'd be fine with it.
Yeah. I'm sure it would look good. It's just a chance for me to get up on my soapbox, and I know Square Enix is listening to this. Mr. Square Enix is listening to this. Of
course they are.
And
Big show.
yeah. So just, you know, modern pixel art doesn't have to be HD 2D. You don't have to slap that on everything
No.
You know, when you think pixel art or when a pixel art game gets remade. So that's my whole thing about that. Returning to the story here for a second, because there is
Sure.
Here's where we talk about like kind of the vibe of the story, themes to be on the lookout for in here. And like I said, I played like 35, 40 hours of Dragon Quest XI. It was a fairy tale of a story, basically. You know, bad things happen, in air quotes, bad things happen, but it was like not, you know, it never felt that way. It felt like a bedtime story, and I think that's kind of the point. And that's always the way I've kind of heard Dragon Quest stories explained to me, as just kind of like a warm blanket of an RPG story. And Dragon Quest V is not. a warm blanket of an RPG story. It still has that vibe and like that cozy charm, but it is a very emotional and affecting story. Very simple things that it does, I think, but very effectively done. And you sent, I'm going to commit a crime here, and I'm going to explain a meme out loud with words right now. But you sent me a meme before I started playing this game that it says, what I played. It has a picture of Dragon Quest V. What I expected, and it has a happy picture of all these Toriyama characters. And then what I got, and it has a frame from Berserk where he says, if you meet God, tell him to just leave me alone. And he's screaming. And that thing is stuck in my head since you sent that to me. And it is incredibly fitting for all the shit that your character goes through in this game. It kind of bucks against what I thought Dragon Quest stories were.
And it really does. If I could think about all the Dragon Quest stories, not that they all don't have their dark moments.
Yeah.
But they all pretty much are mostly fairy tale stories. That like your protagonist never really goes through any trials and tribulations. It's usually the characters around your protagonist that are going through the shit. This game, to my knowledge, and I mean, I would have to go back and like go over the Dragon Quest games as a whole, but this is the only one that really puts your character in some really tough situations. Everything else is just kind of your standard go to the next town, solve the town's problems, solve the world's problems, and be on with it. And this one squarely might be the only Dragon Quest game that squarely puts your protagonist as their experiences as the center of solving those problems. And I think it makes the game better for it. And I love those dark angles. I love those angles where you have to look at your character. And this is one of those things, like, you are not like the protagonist, the hero is a character you are along on the ride for. You're not role playing as this character, which is probably what's going on with the other Dragon Quest games. You are the Link to that world, as they said with Link. That's why you're Link in Zelda. But like, this is definitely a character's story.
Yeah.
And you're just supposed to empathize with that character and feel what that character is feeling. Like, do you understand what's going on? It's asking you to put yourself in the main character's shoes. Whereas other games in the Dragon Quest series are more typical JRPG or just RPG, whatever kind of your flavor is. Put yourself in the shoes of the characters the NPCs that you're associating with or party members. And I think that's that's quite a departure. And especially for the time. I know I've already said that, but especially for the time, that is a monumental shift in narratives for the genre.
And it's even more impressive because your character is a silent protagonist, which usually doesn't work for me very well. I have a really hard time going on that journey with a silent protagonist. I'm just like not able to self-insert really well. I prefer formed characters, and I go on the ride with them. I go on the ride with Locke and all the other characters in Final Fantasy VI. I don't need to pretend that I'm in the world, but the fact that your character is silent doesn't hurt this story at all, in my opinion, and the emotional ride that you go on. It's another testament to, again, like, we can't say it now, but some of the stuff that happens that kind of provides that emotional like framework for the story, it's very simple when you look at it, but it's just done so well that a silent protagonist can't harm it. Pretty minimalist presentation, even in the remakes, can't harm it. It's just a really, really solid story, a really solid writing of the scenario, we'll say, the plot. And
I think, I kind of reading ahead in your notes here, sorry. And so I'm not trying to spoil too much here, but I think one of the biggest reasons for that is because the expectations of how you feel in terms of what's happening to the characters are fairly universal in terms of morality. Yeah. In terms of what you'd expect a person to feel. And I think that's why it's so well pulled off. Like, there's no gray. Like, you would definitely have a feeling that the overwhelming majority of human beings would have towards the situation. Right. And that's why you can have a silent protagonist here.
Well, that's also one of the I guess it's another feather in the cap of how like the simplicity of this story, but the fact that it's done so well, like how good it's actually done. Because like you're right, I didn't think of it like that, but there is no gray morality in the story. It's still a Dragon Quest story. So
Yeah.
you meet good characters and you meet bad characters. There's really nobody who's morally gray in the entire game. It's just not a story like that, but it doesn't affect the end result. It doesn't affect the emotional ride that you go on throughout the story. I think that some of the themes that it tackles kind of like helps you easily get into it too. It's a coming of age story as you see your character literally come of age and figuratively throughout the game. But it's also a story about family. It's about loss. It's about found family. There's several parts in the story where your party is not a traditional RPG party. It is bunch of weirdos and monsters that you've collected along the way. And that becomes your group. Like I loved my monsters just like I loved, party members and family members and stuff throughout the story. So I think simple themes, simple, plot structure, simple execution, but it's all just done really, really well.
Yeah. Don't take away my pet kitty. Bastards.
Yeah. One last thing to talk about story here is just a quick note. I know the DS version gets a lot of shit for its localization. They tried to insert accents and dialects into, the writing for certain characters. One of the major side characters is named Sancho in the DS version. He's your dad's friend, family friend. And he talks with, a Hispanic accent. I didn't mind the accents or a dialect. And then like there's a couple characters, Bianca, who's one of a possible love interest later. She talks with like a stereotypical country accent from the US, stuff like that. I didn't mind the dialects that much. There is one character late in the game who's like a very important character who talks like Ned Flanders. It's fucking ridiculous, like in a bad way. But other than that, I didn't really mind the dialects.
I think it's overblown. If it doesn't resonate with you, that's fine. Yeah. I'm not here to, police what you mind and you don't. I've seen that a lot from people who have played it and they say the dialects annoy them, and more power to you. I'm not going to tell you it shouldn't. I think it's a little overblown though. But at the same time, that's why I recommend the fan translations for the PS2 version or the Super Famicom, just because I know of the reputation that they have. So someone's like, hey, what version do I play? I'm like, well, you can play the DS version, which is technically the best, but it annoys a lot of people as localization. So go play the PS2 version. And it has a little bit in the fan translation there, like Bianca. It's more of a Cockney British accent, because I don't know many country Southerners who use the word bum for butt, but maybe that's a blind spot of mine, because there was a lot of that with Bianca, but and some other characters as well. If they go into the accent, well, it's definitely the Cockney British, because that's probably the most easy and stereotypical that you could do.
True,
but I think it's slightly overblown. But I definitely can understand why people wouldn't enjoy it, because you're right. Sometimes it gets a little over the top.
Yeah,
and yeah, like you just gotta take a deep breath and be like, okay, now I'm let me not get completely disconnected from the situation. This is a nothing burger in the big scheme of things, but it is something that has to be mentioned. You're completely right.
Yeah, it's just that one character. I sent you a screenshot of it in one of our mutual Discords. It's really bad. And it's a really important character late in the game.
It is.
Other than that, didn't mind it. I really didn't think about it as I was going through, until I got to that point and I was like, oh, we're doing Ned Flanders with this character. Okay, cool. All right. Well, a lot of story stuff to tide people over until maybe the spoiler section. But it's time to listen to a bit of music. And when we come back, I want to talk about the other part of presentation, which is the soundtrack. music in Dragon Quest V, as usual throughout the series, composed by Koichi Sugiyama, and terrible personal opinions aside, just getting that out there. Of course, I don't think anyone's going to be like, oh, Dave, you love his personal life, huh? Anyway, I really love the soundtrack. It's my first time talking about Dragon Quest on the podcast here. Do you have an idea or a thought about what makes Dragon Quest music sound the way that it sounds? Because I think it sounds unique in the landscape of RPGs, for sure.
So one of the qualities about Sugiyama, again, I'm not talking about his personal politics.
Right.
Just toss those in a dumpster.
In the trash where they belong.
Yes, and light it on fire. But in terms of what makes Sugiyama unique is that he was a classically trained composer and was well known throughout Japan prior to the release of the original Dragon Quest, which is... I might get a lot of facts here incorrect, so, sue me, whatever. But they were shocked when he reached out. I think he reached out and said he wanted to compose a soundtrack for it. And here's a known classical composer reaching out to you saying, I want to do music. So this isn't someone who grew up in the video game industry and cut his teeth in the video game industry. He was making like full orchestral soundtracks. And so that's what really separates Dragon Quest from the rest of the RPG world, is this is someone who was raised, composed, and just wrote music for a full orchestra and had that all in mind, like very accomplished for this series. Now, I have my own criticisms of the music. I think it sounds too similar throughout the series, especially when you orchestrate it, which is what I heard in the PlayStation 2 version, which was the orchestrated versions of the tracks from Dragon Quest V. But like, it's undeniable that you're getting that take, which is very different from a Final Fantasy again, because that's its core competition, where you have Nobuo Uematsu, who is more into prog rock. So like you're getting a different viewpoint of how music should be composed, and that's what sets Dragon Quest V apart.
It's a really elegant soundtrack. That's like the one word I would use for the way it sounds to me. Of course, there's that iconic main, what's the word? The main theme of Dragon Quest that plays in the main menu. They bring it back during big moments in the story, triumphant moments. It's an iconic song. I don't need to tell people that the theme of Dragon Quest is good or anything like that. And
I think this was the first game where the entire full version of that fleshed out theme was introduced.
Oh, interesting. Cool. It's a great song. This is a game where I would let the main menu sit because I wanted to listen to the song a little bit before I start playing. Like, it's that good of a song. But one of the things that I think is also like kind of cool and unique about Dragon Quest V music in particular, I don't have I don't have the context for the full series, but there's not a lot of songs in the soundtrack. Like, the DS version might have like 20 or 30 songs for the entire game. You'll hear the same battle track for most of the game. You'll hear the same town song in most towns. You'll hear the same ocean song every time you get on the boat, stuff like that. It really never changes, but I never got tired of it. It's just very, very pleasant music in it. It sets the vibe. That's kind of like that cozy charm I talked about that Dragon Quest stories kind of are supposed to give, from what I'm to understand. Maybe not this one so much, but that cozy vibe also comes from the music. It has that very warm kind of feeling to it. Like, there's several songs on here that are like just so relaxing. I could just chill listening to the town music or the sailing music.
It's also very emotive.
Yeah.
You can pick up on the emotions of the situation that is going on in every scenario very well for the most part. But I think, to the point that you say there's not a lot of tracks, I think that is a valid criticism, actually.
I didn't mean it as a criticism, unless
I understand.
You do.
I am using it as a criticism.
Fair.
Because there are certain towns you go into where it kind of plays the more relaxing, more depressed song where I'm like, this is not appropriate for this place. It would have been better to kind of change up this track. This doesn't make sense here. Dungeon themes are reused a little bit too often, but I understand that was kind of the style at the time. So that's understandable. There was a lot of, I mean, it's using tropes in terms of RPG track usage. I don't know if it was a memory limitation, whatever the case might be, or just Sugiyama couldn't be bothered to compose more. Who knows? But you know, what is there is very well done. And I actually, when I was playing the Super Famicom version prior to moving over to the PS2 version, I was thinking about how some tracks sounded a lot better than I remembered, or I had thought I remembered, and just how well it utilized that sound chip. And especially listening to it on the PlayStation 2 with all the orchestrated tracks, and just that boat theme is beautiful.
Yeah,
it is an absolutely beautiful track, and it elicits all sorts of emotions, especially at the beginning of the game where you come out of that scene like you're just born, but you wake up and then you're on a boat and you're in the middle of the ocean and like a fish out of water. It's like, go explore the boat and everything like that. And you have this beautiful track behind you, like you're exploring stuff. It's just the perfect track for that moment. Do you need it every single time you get on your damn boat? No, I don't think, you need that. But yes, the tracks that are there, when they're introduced at least, are just simply beautiful.
It sounds like it could have been a memory limitation in the original game, but then like in the remakes, again, just as they didn't go nuts with the visuals, they also didn't go nuts with the soundtracks in the new versions of the game. And I don't know, maybe they used the memory in other places and they're like, whoops, no room for more music, but I doubt that. The battle theme is another favorite of mine. I really love this. And it's, as soon as it started up, I was immediately remembered a song from Yakuza Like a Dragon, which directly references this song, as that game references Dragon Quest a lot in other ways as well.
Sense. Yeah.
And then there's a part of the battle track that has like this kind of like Flight of the Bumblebees like that. It's exactly the same thing they do in the Pokemon battle music. And it's like just hearing this one track just like unlocks, you know, obviously Dragon Quest is super influential, but just to hear it and be like, oh yeah, it's right there, that people have taken from just this one battle track is great. And I never got tired of the song either. Like, I'm not shy about putting on a podcast while I grind in an RPG, for example, but I didn't really do that with this game because I was still just into the music. Or at least if I did throw on a podcast, I didn't mute the game. We'll say that.
Well, in a way, just a slight pause in terms of the term influential there. And more to emphasize that, yes, this is a very influential game, but a lot of people, if you're living in the West, might not understand that. You're going to see those influences in terms of music, and especially when you talked about gameplay, about where those influences are. But like living in the West, we didn't get this game. Right. So you're saying, oh, in Yakuza, like, oh man, like it stuck out to me. Probably if you're playing Yakuza in Japan, if you're playing Like a Dragon in Japan, the nostalgia, like pheromones are just like going off like crazy.
Oh yeah,
like,
especially,
like, oh my God.
Especially at the beginning of that game when Ichiban basically says that he's going to be a hero like in Dragon Quest, and they kind of like lay it out for you like, this guy fucking loves Dragon Quest. If you fucking love Dragon Quest, get on the ride.
Exactly. And now I need to play it. But but like those are considering where a lot of like development went for this genre in terms of video games, and that got popularized with Final Fantasy VII. So I think a lot of people look at Final Fantasy VII as like, oh, that's the influential RPG. And it is influential, don't get me wrong. But for a lot of people who actually make JRPGs, key letter J, this is that series that is really driving a lot. And of course, Final Fantasy VII too. But like when you say influential, that's you're 100% correct. But it's that I don't think a lot of people in the West would necessarily see it unless it's directly pointed out. Yeah, no fault to them. No fault to them.
Right. Yeah, it's just kind of a quirk of, you know, one series got way more popular over here, and you know, like you said, even this one that might be one of the more influential Dragon Quest games, not to say the most influential, because I don't know which one that would be, but this one didn't even come out for us. So how could we see the influence of this game without, either having it pointed out or playing it ourselves and connecting those dots? And I'm sure there's so many other ways that this game has been referenced in games that I personally love that I just didn't pick up on. It just feels like that kind of game.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, same.
All right. Well, let's listen to a bit more of the music. Maybe we'll listen to that battle track and everyone can make those neural connections. And when we come back, we'll talk about what it's like to play Dragon Quest V. Dragon Quest V, turn-based combat per usual in the series. Fight, magic, skills, items. Characters progress along predetermined paths. They learn predetermined skills at predetermined levels. So there's not a lot of character building per se. You don't have to forget skills to learn new ones or anything. It's just they level up, they learn their stuff. I don't mind this. I kind of actually like it when characters have defined builds, we'll say. I like customization from time to time as well, but I don't get mad at not being able to customize my characters. I'm cool with them being who they are as characters in battle, as well as, as people, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's basic.
It is.
In terms of the battle system, combat system, I really don't have much to say. This is as basic. I mean, it's a I hate to say it's a Dragon Quest game, assuming everyone has played it, but it's super basic. There's not much here.
Yeah, it never really went beyond everybody hits attack, with the exception of boss fights. And
yes,
maybe there's some encounters throughout dungeons that would be a little bit easier if I used a magic spell here and there, but your magic points are super limited. You don't have great ways to replenish them. So that feels like a very old school RPG dungeon crawler type thing where you have resource scarcity that determines, are you going to make it to the end of this dungeon or do you have to go back in town and rest? Like that kind of thing. So it became everybody just spams attack until everything's dead. If someone dies, well, we might bring them back to life with magic, or we might just go back to the church and revive them, depending on how things are going.
If you even have the spell.
Yeah, if you even have the spell. And if the spell works for a while, because the spell is not automatic. Yeah, I don't know. Is that your experience too, outside of boss fights, attack?
Let me put it this way. The controller I played this game with had a turbo button.
There we go.
And it was used.
Yeah.
Now, I would say, in the later dungeons, I would have to turn it off because it gets difficult in the very late game. So instead of attack, because you have 4 characters, it'd be attack, use item that heals everybody. So I had to change up my strategy a little bit. I had to turn off the turbo button.
Well, that's a feather in the cap of the Dragon Quest V combat system, if I've ever heard one. It's one of those where the combat system works, and there were probably 3 or 4 boss fights throughout the game where I felt legitimately challenged and engaged with the system and really had to take stock. Okay, this character has these skills. This character can get this tool that will do this in battle, and it's going to be really helpful. Other than that, it is one of those games where you just kind of hammer on that A button and go through most of the fights without really thinking. So do I think it's a good combat system? Not really. Outside of those handful of boss fights. And the reason we bring it up is because you do a shitload of combat. There's so much, the encounter rate felt pretty high, and you do a lot of combat. So it's a thing where it's if you need to be super engaged by a combat system to enjoy an RPG, I'm not sure that this is going to give that to you.
Yeah, if you like grinding and you find grinding therapeutic, which I know a lot of JRPG fans do.
Yeah, I do from time to time. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a draw for a lot of fans of that genre. My biggest problem, and this is something I'm finding a lot with more classical JRPGs, is that the grinding isn't for experience. The grinding is for gold.
Ooh,
And
yeah.
there's not a lot of places where you can effectively grind for gold in this game, which makes it more frustrating, which is probably why the bosses at the later part of the game didn't really challenge me at all, because I was over leveled to hell, because I wanted to afford things. And if you're trying to afford things, you're going to be fine level wise. But I actually think this isn't a game where you necessarily have to grind if you're worried about the level aspect of things. I think that it flows pretty well outside of some areas in the early game, like the Ghost Castle. I felt like I had to grind for levels for a little bit.
Yeah, I did before that boss. Yeah.
Yeah. Outside of that, I didn't really feel like I had to grind for levels. Now, when we get into the monster recruiting thing, I'll talk more about this. Where I think the gameplay really shines in terms of the combat and where it's important, but in terms of the baseline combat and how you approach it, yeah, it is what we've already said. I don't want to continue nailing on this point too much, but like it's a grind fest, and you're like you said it best, hammering down on that A button.
Yep. Hope you have a turbo button. Yeah. I found that I had to do a significant amount of grinding before the final boss, but other than that, maybe if I had done 1 hour of grinding every 5 hours instead of 5 hours at the very end of the game, maybe it wouldn't have been that way, but I didn't feel underpowered until I got to the very end of the game. And I was like, oh shit, this is, it's getting very difficult here. So I did have to do it there. Again, I don't mind it. I got podcasts to listen to. So many of our friends, including Retro Hangover, make so many good podcasts. I can use an excuse sometimes. So I know that's not going to be for everybody, though. And as a combat system, it's fine. The interesting kind of wrinkle to the combat in here is the monster recruiting, like we've mentioned before. I read this is not the first monster taming game. Shin Megami Tensei and stuff like that had already been out.
Megami
Tensei.
No shit.
Yeah. Right. Just plain old Megami Tensei. But first in the Dragon Quest series, and obviously really influential for an entire genre of RPGs now, monster collectors. So you go around every now and then, especially if you're much more powerful than something that you fight. At the end of the fight, it will stand up and it will offer to join your team. And you can choose whether you want to or not. The DS version, at least, gives you a chance to name them, but their default names are all cool and punny and stuff like that, so I left the default names. So this is cool because your main party characters, the humans, come and go throughout as the story goes along. People leave, people join, etc. And so monsters can fill those gaps in your team to make sure that you always have 4 people, 4 characters. What do you think of the monster taming?
I have a lot of mixed emotions. I have a lot of things to say about the well, not a lot, but I have mixed feelings on it, positive and negative. First of all, I want to shout out a video that I sent to you from a channel called Designing For on YouTube, because I'm going to steal something from them and their observations from the monster taming, and why it differentiates itself from like Megami Tensei is that each one of your monsters acts as an independent character. And I hadn't thought about that before. So I am parroting that point made from that video, which is a great video. But
it is good. Yeah.
That's kind of what that's the strength of the monster taming, is that every single character has unique stats, abilities, level caps that you have to be aware of. And that's where I think like the combat more shines, is making sure that your party makeup is what you need going into an environment. And there's positives and there's negatives about that, because recruiting monsters can be a massive pain in the ass, because sometimes they just don't join you. Fortunately, the best monsters in the game have an easy recruitment rate. Like getting a golem is not hard. Getting a slime knight is not difficult. I had a brownie, which is like I don't know, like a little rodent thing with a hammer. Until 3/4 through the game, just because of their strength attribute and high hit points. So like getting really good monsters is not difficult. but maybe getting the monster you want and or need, like it can be. I went through this entire playthrough without ever getting a heal slime or a cure slime or a restore slime.
Yep. Same.
And they have abilities that are super helpful, like heal us all, which is like critical to playing this game, but you may not get it.
Yep.
So like it's all odds based. Like there's nothing you can do within your control in order to determine whether or not you get them. I thought like sending them back to Mr. Monster would increase my odds, and I thought that was true until I realized, no, that's not true at all. They just will go back to Mr. Monster on their own if you recruit them and have a high recruitment chance. So you don't need to send your monsters back if you don't want to. I'm like, this is Pokemon made it right. Pokemon made it right. This is like a proto Pokemon in every way. It's like they're just trying to figure it out, and it works exactly like that. And they are imbalanced, much like Pokemon are. And they are fun to take around with you, much like Pokemon are, and you will have your favorites. And they are cute, and it's great having them with you. And sometimes the cutest ones are the most worthless. Slimes. But you'll probably just want to carry them with you because it's like, I love this monster. There's so much good to it, and so much at the same time that's frustrating.
Yeah. I think you laid it out perfectly. The bad part about this is that you have no control over what monsters want to join you. I got to, like, for example, I got to the end area. There's a bunch of dragons that you fight. I'd be like, it would be badass to get a dragon on my team. I fought hundreds of those dragons, didn't get a single one to join my team.
Oh, you want to know why? Because there's level requirements to get them.
Yeah.
So if it's a level requirement of 41, which I think is what you're talking about, the Great Dragon, which is a recruitable one, but you don't need to be level 41 in order to beat the game. And the game is designed in order to beat the game below that. So it's going to be really hard to get to that level. So if you're below that level, you can't even recruit the dragon.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of other monsters that I fought many, many times, dozens of times too, and never recruited. And like, you know, those requirements are there. They're extremely hidden from you. You'll have no idea unless you go look it up. So that's the issue. But the part that makes it like a working system is most of the monsters that I caught were viable in combat. And then by the time I got to the hardest fights in the game, I had a bunch of human characters that I could rely on. And then I had the golem with me as well because he was badass and did a bunch of damage.
Golem is broken.
Yeah, he's very good. So like the thing is that most of them are pretty good, even if they are the ones that just kind of seemingly randomly join your party. They're all decently fine. And the designs on them, like the portraits of them as they get up close and they're in your party, it's just great. Toriyama, what a guy.
I don't think I don't think there were portraits in
the DS version. There are.
Yeah, there are.
Like
definitely are.
Yeah,
because some characters look a lot like Super Saiyans.
Right. Yeah. So I guess that is gameplay in Dragon Quest V. Not a whole lot to talk about because, frankly, it's not the deepest game from a mechanical perspective. But I don't know. I went through the game tapping my way through combat for the most part, kind of enjoying the challenge of the hardest fights in the game. And then, you know, I did enjoy my monsters that I caught, even if there were a bunch that I wish I could have had any sort of control over. You know, they give you like monster treats. They're called monster munchies in the DS version. And I was like, give those to the monsters. Maybe they'll want to join. Nope. It just makes them skip a turn in combat. That's all.
Yep. Yeah.
So
yeah. Can't throw a ball at them.
Yeah. They hadn't invented Pokeballs in the, in this world here, but
no, they haven't.
So, yeah, gameplay, pretty simple experience. You know, I personally, I don't mind a mindless combat system, although when viewing it critically, it's not the best. I would stop short at saying it's not good, but it definitely doesn't ask you to engage with it for 99% of the game. And I don't think that is a good thing in a turn-based game.
It does the bare minimum.
Yeah, it does. It functions. And during the hardest fights, I did enjoy the strategy. So we'll give it a little shine there. Like the final boss was very difficult for me. It was one of those things where, like, in the final boss fight, I had to perfectly pick the right thing each turn for each character. Otherwise, things could get sideways in a hurry. And I like that. It's just a shame that it only happened 3 or 4 times in the game.
Could you sub characters in and out in the DS version?
You could I think it's if everyone dies, you could sub in the rest of the if you had your whole wagon, you could do that, which in the final dungeon you do. That's another thing is you have your wagon of characters. Sometimes you can like swap characters in and out. You can use magic spells from characters that are not in the active party, which is super helpful if someone has a healing spell, but they're on the bench. But in most dungeons, you don't have the wagon. So, yeah.
Especially in the the third of the game, the last third of the game. Your wagon is not available to you. Yeah, that sucks.
It was a kindness to let you have it during the final dungeon, for sure.
I mean, it was expected. They better.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a character I was definitely not putting in my party. Let me put it that way.
Okay. Well, when we get to the spoiler section, we'll find out who that is. But before we have spoilers, we'll give our final thoughts and things like that. But I want to take another music break, enjoy a little bit more of the Dragon Quest V music. And when we come back, we will wrap up the non-spoiler portion of the episode. So in this section, we always begin by answering the question, who would we recommend play Dragon Quest V? And if people have listened all this way and they're still not sure about it, Chris, who do you think that this would appeal to the most?
I would say it would appeal to anyone who is a fan of JRPGs in the classical sense. If you find yourself as someone who loves the classic Super Nintendo games or Nintendo era JRPGs, I think this is a game you have to play, even if you go into the PlayStation era. And it's just, it's so foundational. You'll see a lot of overlap with a lot of other games later on. And I think it also applies to people who are fans of that and also have families, have lived experiences, which should be everybody, I would think, because it does nail on a lot of those themes. And that's, I think, really the appeal of this game. But if you got into RPGs, PS2 or afterwards, you may not want to pick this one up. It's just, it's going to vary greatly.
Yeah, it feels old, and even the remade versions stick to that kind of old feel to it. So I think it's worth going through. I don't think it's the hardest game. I think that by the time you get to the hardest fights, you should have a good grasp on how combat works. So again, I don't think it's a huge challenge, but it is an old feeling game. But I agree with you. I think that people who love this genre should play one of the foundational ones. It's very similar to what we said about Final Fantasy IV, where probably a lot of the games that you like from later on in history took direct inspiration from this game and that game. And so if you're interested in seeing where that inspiration came from, Dragon Quest V, go try it out. And also I think the story is really fucking good. Well, just want to reiterate that at the end here. If you play RPGs primarily for the story, then I think this one will deliver what you're looking for. If you don't care what the combat's like, if you don't care about random encounters, stuff like that, I think this story is well worth experiencing for yourself.
100%.
Yeah, so pretty easy recommendations. It's just a shame that in order to play it, you're either going to have to emulate it or buy the DS version, emulate one of those fan translations. Hopefully, those other 1 through 3 remakes sell well and they keep making the games accessible on modern systems. So, all right, well, before we get into spoilers, we always do our housekeeping and plugs. I did most of my plugs at the top of the show, but we always start with the guest anyway. As I've said on many of the previous episodes, Chris is one of 2 hosts of Retro Hangover, which is a fantastic show, but don't take my word for it. Chris, tell the people about Retro Hangover and where people can find you.
Yes, take my word about how great my show is.
You should. Everyone should.
They should. I agree. Yes, Retro Hangover is a show where me and my other host, Shane, my partner, we talk about video games that are 10 years or older, or we cover a topic or a personality. We don't do a lot of those, to be honest with you. So it's mostly games that are 10 years or older. And then every alternating week, we talk about a top 5 list that is determined by our community. And that's pretty much the long and the short of it. It covers things very much in the sense that you hear things here on Tales from the Backlog, except we don't have a spoiler wall. So that's really the only separation there. But other than that, yeah, retro gaming podcast, and that's what we do. And I am very obnoxious at the beginning, and I yell very loudly, which apparently upsets people. But
it's
that's
your brand.
Not changing. It is my brand. It's our brand.
It's great. I've heard you talk about a period in the show when you stopped yelling loudly, and I would be upset if you stopped doing it. It's part of the experience.
The community revolted.
Yeah,
they revolted. Should. Yes, they're like, this is not Retro Hangover anymore. I'm like, I fucking knew it. Yes.
Yeah, if I didn't have to race for the volume down button at the beginning of the show, it wouldn't be Retro Hangover. But that's not to say the show is all loud noises. I genuinely think it's a great show. I love the brief histories at the beginning about the games of the day, because I don't cover development history on this game or on this show, but I love hearing about it on Retro Hangover. And I've been on the show several times now, kind of like you said. You've been here a surprising number of times, and I feel like I've been on Retro Hangover a surprising number of times. Most recently we talked about Psychonauts, which was a great chat, and Metal Gear Solid, System Shock 2, and KOTOR in the past. I think that's the 4 of them.
Oh wow, yeah, you've been on 4 as well. Damn.
Yeah, look at us. Who would have thought? I don't know when it's going to be available to the public, but King of Games 99.
When will it be available to the public? I won't even want to math this. In a few weeks.
Okay. Well, King of Games 1999, a big tournament. We had probably an irresponsible number of games in the tournament this year to determine what is the King of Games from 1999. Chris is one of the hosts. I got a chance to host a bunch of episodes and be a judge on several others. I had a great time doing that. And if people want to listen early, if it's not out to the public yet, go on Retro Hangover's Patreon. You can listen to those things. But it'll be publicly available soon, if not right now. We don't know because it's going to be in the future. But I think those episodes are a lot of fun, and you're sure to have feelings about the decisions that we make.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a good time. I love the King of Games, and I thank you guys for letting me be a part of it for a few years now.
Oh, thank you. And it was great having you on there.
Yeah.
Whenever it comes back, you'll be there as well.
Thank you. Yeah. Looking forward to it. So there we go. A lot of stuff from Retro Hangover. The main show, the King of Games 1999, The Flight, which is the top 5 list. Those are fun little short episodes as well. So lots to check out down in the show notes. I will put links to Retro Hangover so you can easily find it and go find yourself some games to learn about. And I already did most of my plugs. Just a quick thing, join the Discord server if you want to join our community, especially if you're a Dragon Quest fan. Love to have you join. Talk to us about it this week and in the future. There's an invite link down in the show notes. You can easily find the Discord server. Also, again, Patreon is the best place to support the show, but otherwise telling a friend, leaving ratings and reviews, likes and comments on YouTube. All of that's super helpful. All of that is stuff that you can do during the music break that we're taking right now. When we come back, it will be full spoiler time for Dragon Quest V. All right, before we get to full spoiler time for Dragon Quest V, I would like to say thank you to the wonderful patrons who help support the show. A big thank you goes out to Chris Nelson, the Top 3 Podcast crew, Zulgeek, Chris Coplien, Eric Guess, Rick Firestone, Nick Ficori, Soccer, Cupcake, Kyle, Christian S., Matt aka Stormageddon, JD, Doug Leaf, Jason Emery, Brian Skirsha, Jenny E., Marcus O'Neill, Stefan, Drellish, Rob Smith, Rigamort, Sil Canet, Ashton Ruby, Levi, John E., Chump Change, Matthew Turner, Aliasi, Joseph Hooper, a new patron, Simon J., and many more. Your support both means the world to me and it is a big help. So thank you all for doing what you do, and if anyone out there would like to join them, the place to do that is patreon.com/RealDaveJackson. For as little as $2 per month, you can join this fine group of people. And you'll have my everlasting love and respect, along with some other treats. With that being said, it's time to get back. It will be full spoilers coming for Dragon Quest V, Hand of the Heavenly Bride. All right, we're back. It's full spoiler time for Dragon Quest V. And as always, this is, we are going to kind of go in a generally linear order through the story, but we're not going to hold back if I want to say something that comes up much later. So still full spoilers beginning very soon. Do not expect us to hold back stuff from the end at the beginning of this. So here we go. Now, Dragon Quest V, it's a cycle of tragedy, triumph, tragedy, triumph, tragedy. It is a roller coaster. If you were to build up a graph of emotions, things are going great, things are going shitty. Oh, they're great again, and then oh no. I think this game does these moments really, really well, even though it's not predictable, but it is fairly simple. That whenever you think things are going great for your character, somebody's about to die or something terrible is about to happen. And then you build yourself up, something bad happens again. But I think the game builds up to these moments really, really well in a way that, for example, I recently just quit playing Octopath Traveler 2 because I didn't give a shit about the stories. And there are multiple stories in Octopath Traveler 2 that begin with the death of a family member or someone that the character really cares about, like within the first 10 minutes of starting their stories up. And they're flat. They don't mean anything. And I think that the reason these things hit so well in Dragon Quest V is because you always have a slow buildup to these moments. So like at the beginning, when Pankraz gets killed, it means something because you spent hours with your dad protecting you and leading you around and all of this stuff. That's why that moment hits so well, I think. It's really good.
Yeah, that's a tremendous point. And it's not just Octopath Traveler. I think, going back to the word trope, which I've used multiple times here, it became a trope for RPGs over the years that within the opening moments, within the first couple hours, your town will get destroyed, everyone you love will get destroyed.
Yeah, that's sorry, that's like a hero's journey trope, right? Like your character refuses the call. It's one of the steps in the hero's journey. And then something forces them to leave, like Luke Skywalker's home gets burned down, shit like that. Like that's super classic storytelling, right?
Well, particularly in RPGs, JRPGs in particular, is that your hometown gets burned down. Yeah, that's what always happens. But that's not what happens here. Here you get a different perspective. And I think like the slow build is what's important. And you look at the first act with Pankraz Papas, whatever you want, your father. This is your protector. Every town you go to talks about how incredible this person is in everybody's lives. This is someone who is invincible in the grand scheme of things. That there's no flaws with this person. And so when you lose them, it creates one, that there is a real threat. But also the way in which he dies, it shows that he is willing to do everything for his family. And you find out the reason he's traveling, the reason, you're with him is to look for your mother who is still alive.
Yeah. Right.
who you're led to believe is dead at the beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that shows the overarching theme that this game is about family and the love, the familial love that permeates throughout. And that just continues throughout the game. And the way it sets it up in that manner is great. It could, because it doesn't just hit you over the head with, okay, like, go save the world. It's just, you're a kid and you're traveling with your dad and you don't know why, but you're learning that he is an incredible person, and that's all that really matters.
Yeah. I think it's the combination, like you said, you travel from place to place. You don't know this. He hides it from you, but he used to be a king, or he is a king. So everyone knows him, and he's a beloved king. So everyone loves him, basically. And so you go to all these places, everyone loves him. You're like, fuck yeah, everyone loves my dad. He's the best. And then you get into fights. He kills everything in one hit. And you're like, fuck yeah, that's my dad. He's killing everything in one hit. There's a couple times where, like, you get separated and you get into a fight. You're in over your head because you're a little kid. He shows up and saves you. Like, they really build it up. This is like 5-10 hours-ish, this opening act. And then the way that he dies, he doesn't just die because someone surprises him or even defeats him in fair combat. He dies because they capture you and Prince Harry, who's a little shithead at the beginning of the game. And they basically say, like, throw down your sword or we're going to kill your son. And so he does. And it's probably the same in the PS2, but the way they show it in the DS version is it's in the combat screen, and he's fighting against the monster who you just defeated really easily. And he doesn't attack. He just, like, takes their attacks, and he's so strong. It takes, like, several minutes of real time for them to whittle his health down. And he just, like, takes it, and then he gets fireballed to death. And that's the way that he dies. And, like, because of all the buildup, because you've seen how good of a person he is, how strong of a fighter he is, and now you see what he would sacrifice to save you and hopefully continue this quest of finding your mom. Like, it makes this moment hit one of the best, like, executions of a death scene in a game like this, I think.
Because you're forced to see it through his perspective.
Yeah.
The PS2 version actually fucks this up pretty bad. They have a cutscene, and they have the monsters beating up on him. I think in the Super Famicom version and the DS version, I think is far more effective for you to go into the combat screen.
Yeah.
And like, from your father's perspective, surrender. Like, you just die. Like, he's not taking any command prompts. He is just surrendering. He is allowing himself to be defeated. I think that is just extremely effective. Where most character deaths happen in a sense that it happens in a cutscene, or, once again, going back to Final Fantasy, where you have, in this sense, slight. Can I spoil Final Fantasy IV and Final Fantasy V a little bit?
I was just laughing because I remembered all the character deaths in Final Fantasy IV and how ridiculous some of them are. Right.
But within the command screen. So I'm not gonna spoil the characters that die in those games, because we're not talking about those. Even though we have talked about Final Fantasy IV before, but in those scenes, the character health will get down to 0, and they will continue to be pummeled, and they won't die. And it's kind of like, this is kind of stupid. I guess it shows the indeterminable will of these characters or whatever to live beyond their health or whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
But here it's like, I guess your HP matters, quote unquote. And he is, like, watching it slowly drain to 0 is the reality of the situation. And you can't do anything about it. You just have to watch it.
Yeah. It's like, so he has, like, let's just say he has 400 hit points in that fight. Each time he gets hit takes like 10 or 15 hit points away. So it takes a long time for them to whittle his health down. And all of that, this is the first time when the game really drags out these dramatic situations in, like, a very, very effective way. And this is the first time, because that battle takes a minute for him to get taken down. So yeah, just the way they do this is so good. And So if you just like, this is what I was saying in the non-spoiler part. If you just wrote down like, okay, you go on an adventure with your dad dies at some point, you'd be like, okay, simple story trope. We probably could have seen this coming. But the way they do it is so good, so well executed that it doesn't matter how simple it is at all. Because that build up and then the way that scene itself actually works is really great.
And even like the call to action, not the refusal to the call to action, because there is no refusal in this story. Like your character actively looks for action in this story, like going to the castle and fighting the ghost to save the cat. But the real initial call to action is go find your mother.
Yeah.
And that becomes even more of a theme throughout the game up until the very end, where you're like, I know, getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. Please. When like later in the game, people are like, "Oh, we finally have a king. What are you going to do? Go find my mom."
Yeah.
Oh, your wife finally came back. She's returned, and your kids are here, and you're a family, and we have a kingdom. What are you going to do? I'm going to go find my mom.
We're going to go find my mom together. That's what we're going to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Everyone's going to go find my mom because this is the mission that my father gave to me.
Right.
And I'm going to complete this journey because he sacrificed himself for me in order to do this.
Right. And it also ties in, the story of Laja and Nimzo, I think the final boss's name, Grandmaster Nismo. Maybe I'm mixing that up. Anyway, the story with them and their kind of like rise and taking over this world is just kind of like happening in the background. Although you do help, you're forced to help them build their home base because after your dad dies, they take you and Harry and they make you into slaves building this place, which is cool to go back there later in the game and realize like that's what this place was. This is where I was. I recognize these rooms, stuff like that. But all the while, that's kind of what I meant when I felt like the story with Laja and them was a little bit inconsequential because the primary story is always find my mom or save my wife or something like that, rather than take down the evil that's taking over the land as like would be a really simple traditional fantasy story. That's kind of like, you got to do that along the way, but the goal is always find your mom.
Exactly. Yeah. 100% correct. Because, and I said this too, it's more about the shit your character is going through rather than the shit the world is going to go through.
Right.
And I'm going to call him Gemma. In the Japanese version, he's Gemma, I think. So Laja, Gemma. I'm going to interchange the shit out of this. It's going to be confusing. Sorry, listener. But he's not a great antagonist. He's just a bad guy for bad guy's sake.
Right?
He's
evil.
He's there. Yeah, he's a plot device. So when you go and you're a slave, like the prevailing thought isn't how am I going to kill Gemma? The first thought is how am I going to get out of here? And how am I going to find my mother?
Exactly.
That's your thought. And that's what everyone communicates. It's like, we need to get out of here because it sucks being a slave. And then once you're out of there, it's like, what are you going to do now that you're free? Oh, you're going to go honor your father's wishes. And that drives your character forward into the adventure that they have. Now, eventually, you get your revenge on Gemma or Laja. As you should, like a game should do, because your mother is under the control of these evil beings. But like that's never really brought up. Like I don't think that the antagonist was brought up like ever until like the very end of the third act. That was never a motivating factor for anybody in your circle at any point.
Right. And I don't think I personally knew, or maybe the game didn't even bring it up, that your mom is there with them, against her will, but you don't really know that for a long time either. You're kind of following the steps of, loose ends of like hints of where maybe she might be, but also there's this new thing about the hero of legend that's going to help banish this evil. And of course you think it's you for a while because of course you're the video game protagonist, right? Of course I'm the hero of legend. That's how this shit works. But then like you find out you're not because you pick up the legendary sword and you can't use it. So what does that mean? If I'm not the legendary hero, then who is? And we find out later on who it actually is. It's your son, because you have kids in this game. Who did you marry, by the way?
Bianca. I'm a basic Dragon Quest V bitch.
They definitely kind of try to guilt trip you into marrying Bianca.
They do.
So I married Nira, who's the I don't know if the name's different in the version
Flora.
you played. It's Flora. Okay.
Yeah.
It's Nira in the DS. So I married her. She's the one from the rich family in the town who the father wants you to go, do some errands to get his wife's hand in marriage. And you're just like, whoa, I just like walked into this town. I didn't come here looking to marry anybody. But they're like, nope, time to get married. So I married Nira. I wasn't the biggest fan of Bianca. I thought the story at the very beginning, when you walk into the crowd or walk into the town, maybe I'm just like in a fairy tale kind of mood, but you walk into the town, the dog runs up to you. And then like the pretty girl walks up with the dog and she's like, oh, he normally doesn't like people, but he loves you. That's cool. I was like, yeah, that's a fairy tale way to meet your wife and then get married 2 days later or whatever, which is what happens here.
Now, you probably meant Nira at the beginning of the game when you got off the boat at the very beginning.
Maybe
you
I
do in
didn't
the
remember
PlayStation
that.
2 version. Yeah. You meet her there. In the Super Nintendo version, you don't meet her until you get to that point.
Okay. I don't remember from the beginning of the DS version either. I certainly didn't put it together if I had met her before.
I could imagine when they were remaking the game or remastering, however you want to take the term, they're like, it's probably too forced that we're putting Bianca on you, because they do. Because Bianca is the one that you go on adventures with when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Bianca joins you to find one of the rings in order to get married. And they very much stress that Bianca is the one that loves you. And I actually want to take a moment to talk about this decision. This decision is, I think, first of all, in terms of console gaming, one of the biggest, because I can't speak to like PC gaming before this, and I have no idea, so I'm not going to say it's first or whatever. But it's one of the biggest decisions that you had in terms of player choice in a video game up to this point. It's very superficial in terms of what it means afterwards, but this is a significant player choice that affects characters, their personalities, their backgrounds, their futures throughout the game, and very insignificant ways, but it still does.
Yeah, it's still a choice.
Now, what I think when I said at the beginning of this episode, this game subverts your expectations, this is one of those situations where this happens. In a traditional JRPG, if you're the hero and you're going to get the girl and everything plays out the way it's supposed to, like you said, a fairy tale way of doing things. Like, Nira is the prim and proper, almost princess-like character. She is she is the stereotypical damsel that you end up with in any other situation. Whereas Bianca is this rough and tumble, ready to roll kind of character that you actually develop a relationship with. But she doesn't meet the criteria of the typical love interest of your character in terms of her demeanor, in terms of her personality, everything like that. So in that way, this game is saying you have two choices. You have the stereotypical choice that you get in high fantasy, the beautiful princess type character, or you have like this commoner who talks like a drunk British character, who has been your friend and has been your companion throughout. And they really ham it up. They really force it down your throat that you should be with Bianca.
Yeah, they do.
Almost to an irritating degree, but I understand it because it's telling the player, like, what do you want to do? And even at like, there's a segment at during the night where you have to get up and he's making his decision about who he wants to marry.
Yeah.
And you can talk to everybody in the town.
It's so good.
The theme is, it's really good. Your character is up because he can't sleep. It's a decision that he needs to make for himself. And it's a very important decision. Bianca is also awake, and you can talk to her. And she knows what's going on, and she's nervous because she loves the hero. Nera is fast asleep. She's zonked out. She's not even thinking about it. So it's like, okay. Like, and by the way, Bianca's on the cover of the game too. So,
in case you needed something else.
In case you need any more motivation. But it really forces the hand of the Heavenly Bride, of which character the game wants you to go with. And at the end, it doesn't really matter. Bianca's actually better in battle. And so that makes me curious. Why did you inherently choose Nera? I mean, no, Nera is better in battle, not Bianca. Bianca's not that good in battle. What made
Nera.
you? Because you get her so late in the game and she sucks. But what drove you to choose? Go ahead.
I was going to say, she sucks late in the game because she spent 10 years as a statue and couldn't level up like the rest of the party could.
Even when Bianca levels up, I'm like, no, sit on the bench. Gollum's fighting for you.
Yeah.
Like, you get nothing. You can't equip shit anyway. Sit down.
Yeah. So I picked her honestly because I had spent time with Bianca and I just like didn't love Bianca as a character. So I was like,
okay,
they're trying to guilt trip me into this, but I kind of like this fairy tale story with Nera. Like, I thought that would be kind of cool. There's also a third choice in the DS version. Her name's Deborah. And like, she's like a stereotypical like mess. Like, she never brushes her hair. She talks like a sailor and she basically just talks shit to you from the moment she meets you, but you can choose to marry her if you want to.
My kind of girl.
So yeah, I think I just picked Nera because it seemed like a more like a romantic, like love at first sight. We bonded because her dog liked me type of thing. Honestly, I was kind of annoyed by the guilt trip of Bianca because I never got that kind of feeling before that. You know, we had spent some time as adults wandering around, and I don't know, maybe it's beyond like the scope of how the storytelling works in this game to have Bianca lay subtle hints at you throughout the game up until that point. But yeah, that's why.
Don't forget to mention that her mom just died. Her dad is sick.
Well, yeah, that too.
Like, if there's any way to like make it more ham-fisted, I don't think it's
Right.
I don't think it's possible.
Right.
Like, you will choose her. No.
So maybe it was a deliberate, like, I don't have a huge rebellious streak in me, but maybe it was a deliberate, like, no, you're pushing too hard. I'm veering the other direction.
Yeah. But I think from a 1992 perspective, and that's a great perspective, right? But if you go back to when this game was released, I think like the fact that Bianca is the option as opposed to the stereotypical kind of more princess option, I think that's actually a pretty big step forward.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, like, I'm not sure because I didn't pick her, but I think that because you're whoever you pick will like talk to you throughout the game. You have like party chat. You can talk to your characters. There would be scenes where they talk to you. Nera is not really like a very interesting character. She just wants to serve you. Basically, she wants to go on whatever quest you're on. She wants to make you happy. Yeah. She's not much of a character. I don't know if Bianca's better than that.
Not really. But it's more in character for Bianca because Bianca just wants to go on adventures with you.
Yeah.
She just wants to go explore and see the world. And she even says that when like you propose to her, she's like, "I'm so happy we can go on more adventures."
Okay. Nera gets to that point too. So like eventually Nera is just like, yeah, wherever you're going, I'm going. So I guess we're adventuring. So she's not the most inspired character. So I don't know. Maybe I picked wrong, but we'll never know.
The developers are writing, well, shit. What if they actually pick her? We have to have something here.
Yeah. So it makes me curious. What if you pick Deborah? Does she just talk shit to you throughout the rest of the game? Or she's like, you piece of shit. Like, I could be in my house.
From what I understand, and I've like looked at forums for this because I've never married Deborah.
Right.
But she softens up towards the end of the game.
Okay.
She becomes like her arc. She has an arc. Unlike
what a concept.
I know. Even though I can't imagine how she ended up getting pregnant if she's talking shit to you all the time, unless you're just going on a bender and you're both getting ripped. I don't know. Like, unless like just your protagonist is just like,
your protagonist just into it. Yeah. He loves when they talk shit to him.
Talk dirt. I mean, some people are like that. No kink shame. But just like, hey, talk dirty to me. Tell me I suck again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, baby.
So yeah, maybe that does happen.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, you do end up having kids, and that's like the next big story beat.
Yep.
You do some stuff, and then eventually your wife, I imagine it's the same no matter who you pick. They collapse. You don't know why. And it turns out it's because they're pregnant and they wanted to keep adventuring, so they didn't say anything. Again, they're not really, they don't have a whole lot of agency as people. But you do end up having twins. In the DS version, their canon names are Perry and Mädchen. Mädchen, I think, means girl in German, so a very creative name for her. But also Perry is the boy, and he's the hero of legend. Did you change the names for any of the characters, by the way, in the game?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I did. Okay. In my version, it was Rex and Tabitha was the default names.
All right.
Which actually is better than Perry and Medja.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I changed them just like my online avatar names, or just characters I name my gaming personas in general. So my name was Chris. Shocker. And the son's name was Zodiac, which is my online handle. Right. And my daughter's name was Estral with an H, which is what I name female characters when I play as them in video games. So
okay.
Yeah, females are Astral, Zodiac, and then male characters are Zodiac, Astral. That's how I name my characters, and that doesn't matter. That's neither nor there. But that's what I named them there.
I named my main protagonist Rolando, which is the name I always use for
hell yes. I like
custom names. Dark Tower inspired Rolando. See, it's not just Roland, it's Rolando. So, anyway, naming aside, the cool thing that happens in this game is whenever good things happen, you adventure, you get married, you have some kids, you become the new king, you return to your hometown and become the king, and you have kids, everything's fucking great, and then your wife gets kidnapped in the middle of the night during the coronation ceremony. So this is the next of the big tragic moments, because your wife gets kidnapped, you go to rescue her, and Laja shows up. And Laja knows about this story of the great hero of destiny. He knows it's not you, though. He knows it's going to come from your blood. So instead of just, instead of killing you like he probably should if he's capable, he decides the best way to do this to prevent you from having kids is to turn you to stone. So he turns you and your wife to stone, doesn't know that your kids have already been born. So that's the flaw in the plan. And this whole sequence is really fucking good. It might even be better than the part where your dad dies earlier. So if anyone didn't play, here's what happens. So you're at the top of this dungeon. Bishop Laja turns you and your wife to stone and just leaves you there. Doesn't take you anywhere, just leaves you at the top of this dungeon full of monsters, assuming that no one will ever find you. Eventually, some treasure hunters come, they find your statues, they auction them off. Your statue gets sold to a rich family. The guy who found the statue decides he wants to keep your wife's statue because she's pretty, which is gross. What he's doing with that statue there. Yeah, disturbing. And also, they do imply that your characters are conscious in the stone. You know what's up. So that's horrifying. And so the guy who buys you takes you home, puts you in the front yard to display, and then it's really fucked up how they do this because you just had kids, you had your wedding and stuff, and this guy's family who bought your statue, they have a kid. And you see as years pass and this kid grows up playing out in the garden, and you're like, fuck, my character just had kids too. This is the way they set this up in parallel is really great. And then eventually some monsters from Laja's, monster group comes and kidnaps the kid to be a slave and help continue building their pyramid or whatever. And the dad is so upset, he beats the fuck out of your statue and knocks it down. And your statue just lies there facing up into the sky. And the game really lingers here. It shows the passing of seasons and a long time, 8 years pass after this, and your statue's just lying face up in this yard of this house. And it's a really long, drawn out scene, but it's so good how they just give you all this shit to think about in that moment. It's for the presentation, because again, not a lot of big presentation flair. It's just in the pixel art of the game engine on the DS, and I assume on the Super Famicom.
Yeah.
The way they do so much with so little as far as the presentation goes, this moment hits really fucking hard.
It's soul crushing.
Yeah.
It's designed to be soul crushing. Like they have the scene, like they bring out the child, and then like it's a few years later, like less than a year later, and they're like, oh, look, he's taking his first steps.
Yeah.
And it's like, this family gets to experience the things that you can't.
Yeah. And your character's in there watching the whole fucking thing. Yeah.
Watching it. Also, you're like the do-gooder hero, and while this child is getting abducted, in a normal situation, you'd be saving this child.
Right.
And you can't do nothing. You just have to sit there and watch it too. Watch another family's pain occur. And then it's all your fault. Everything's your fault. But you didn't do anything. It's this juxtaposition of probably how the character is feeling. And this is why you're like, why does it hit so well? Why is it so effective? And this is the lack of a morally gray attitude. Anyone can understand what's happening here. And there's no debate about what you should feel in this moment. If you're a decent person, at least, like what the general feeling should be. You should feel like this is awful. This is a horrible situation to a character who has lost his father, was sold into slavery, found a way to crawl out of that and become successful again, started getting regarded among the lands in the same way his father was. And there's a lot of that reminiscence, like, you are the new papas. People are, they herald you in the same way. They greet you in the same way. You are truly the next, you're the inheritance of your father's legacy, only to once again be defeated. Yeah. And that's not what you see in a game. It's usually, in an RPG, you have your trials and tribulations in terms of plot development. But at this point in time, especially among console games, you never saw a character get beat down this badly. Yeah. And it's in a way that everyone can empathize with. I think that's what really sets Dragon Quest V apart.
This is rock bottom from this era.
He is stone.
Yeah, this is stone bottom. This is rock bottom along the lines of like the famous scene with Celeste in Final Fantasy VI and Cid. Like that level of rock bottom. But I think that this scene hits harder than the one in FF6, which is an incredible scene that, you know, I cry every time I play through that scene. This hits harder, I think, because it's happening to you, and because you've had, like you said, you had the crawling your way out from a previous like terrible rock bottom. Everything's going well. You got your family now. You just had twins. You reclaim the throne that your father had. And then this happens. And the way that they juxtapose that with, you're watching this family have the life that you should be having right now. You should be experiencing these things. And the fact that it's all just happening in front of you like that. It's just, again, it's simple. What's happening here is simple, but it's done perfectly. There's no way they could have done this better.
And I think, like, at this point, because I played it over 10 years ago now, originally. This is one of those games that when you go back on multiple playthroughs and you know what's coming, typically, I would say plot points in this situation are softened, are muted when you return to them in most gameplay story beats. This is the type of game where it hits harder every single time I go back to it. Like there's something else I can get from it. There's something else in my life as I've progressed, as I've had kids, as I've aged, as I've looked back on things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can take something from this and it hits even harder.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the intention, maybe it's not. I think this is Yuji Horii. I mean, this is really the crowning point of this game, this end of Act 2 into Act 3.
Yeah.
Not to say Act 3 doesn't have any impactful moments, it does. But this is really the emotional climax of Dragon Quest V. And it's pulled off, like you said, simply, but beautifully and brilliantly. And it's something that I think if you play it today and you go back to it 5 years later and you go back to it 10 years later, you're going to get something different, but equally, if not more impactful.
I think that the reason that the two big tragedies that we've talked about so far, I think that the reason that these hit so well, despite, not including the setup, because the build up to those moments is great. But what the moments are themselves, the loss of your father, and then having the experience of watching your kids grow up, ripped away from you, and then you have to watch someone else's kid grow up in front of you, and they, you're just a statue, so throw the ball at the statue, get mad at the statue, knock the statue down, fuck that statue, those moments, and I'm lucky I haven't lost my father. I'm lucky I was to say I'm lucky I haven't watched kids grow up. I don't have any kids. That's not an experience that I have from my life. But it's not hard to empathize with those situations. Mm-hmm. Those are nearly universal situations, we'll say, that they bring up in the game. And
yes,
I think that's a way they make these work for everyone who plays. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And they do it really effectively, building up to those moments. But at the end of the day, these are relatable things. I mean, we've never been turned into statues. I'm doing that thing again where I say I've never been in this situation that's impossible.
I've never been a statue.
I've never been turned into a statue and forced to watch other people's kids grow up. But it's not hard to empathize with someone having the experience of, enjoying the early years of their kid's life, like ripped away from them. And you have to just sit and watch it happen to someone else. And then it turns into tragedy again in front of your eyes.
Well, I mean, I don't know too much about the life of Yuji Horii or what he is trying to express here. That's not my knowledge bank. But you also have to think if you're a professional, and I only have a cursory, I hope I said that word right. I probably didn't. Knowledge of Japanese culture, but it's very work oriented, very work driven. Like you dedicate yourself to your profession. From what I understand, if that is the case, like how involved are you in your kids' lives? Is this an allegory to say?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah,
like your work life is so important that you're missing out on everything, and you get to watch other people's experiences from afar for the experiences that you should be having. And I think anyone who is working really hard to provide for their family and is not able to be there with their kids every day, I think that's something that's very relatable. Like, am I really a part of my kid's life as much as I can be? I know I feel that way as a service member who was deployed through a lot of the early years of my kid's life. Like I missed out on so much, and that's hard. Yeah, it's really difficult to come to terms with that. And I can see that from a perspective from somebody who dedicates their life to work. And maybe that's what Horii was trying to express here. Or maybe he was just trying to express something else. But I can take that away from this situation and at least empathize in that way. And it makes it a very powerful moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see how obviously that moment would hit harder for anyone who has kids, regardless of what you were there to see and what you were not available for example. I just think that like these moments are so inherently relatable to everybody or easily empathized, as opposed to other, big deaths in fiction. There's a fantasy to them that, you'd be sad when Aerith dies, or be sad when Boromir dies, or something like that. But like, that's not a lived experience from your own life or people that you know in real life that you are connecting with the game story. There's an abstraction, even if those deaths really do affect you. And there's a bunch of character deaths in games and movies and stuff that I get upset about, or upset over, not upset about. I get mad. But this stuff in here, it just cuts right to like the center of humanity in a way that makes them work really, really well. I mean, despite, like I said, simple dialogue, even at this scene, there's no dialogue. After the family, moves out of that house, you just sit there, you watch spring, summer, fall, winter, spring comes again, and your statue's just sitting there up there. You just think about, like, what is your character thinking in that moment? Are they going crazy in there? Like, are they going to be okay when they get out of this? Like, it's very effective stuff.
And I mean, and this is where I wanted to critique it a little bit. I think
sure,
when you do get revived, because you do, and your kids show up, it's just kind of like, oh, hi, you're revived now, everything's okay. And it's just like, oh, these are your kids, and it's just like, hi, Dad, and just like business as usual. Like, let's go adventuring with my children. And the same reaction kind of happens when you release your wife later on.
Right.
Is, oh, wow, I was trapped. How did I get here? Like, no, you know how you got here. You could observe, just like I could observe. You knew everything that was happening. Do not give me that. That is a terrible plot device going on at this moment. And it just seems like there's when you get back to your castle after releasing your wife, your children have more of an emotional reaction than what you would anticipate either yourself or the wife character having. Yeah.
I'm going to generalize here, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that kind of very nuanced character dialogue and conversation is not what I've ever seen in Dragon Quest. Like, I think that if this was a different game series, I think we would have seen someone freak out about what they've been through and how the world is different when they get out, or maybe they come out of being a statue for 8 years and they're not mentally okay anymore. Like, or it would take a recovery period or something like that. It feels hand wavy to say it's Dragon Quest. I never thought it was going to be like that. But as a story, I get the critique and I agree with it that, like, someone should have freaked out at least once. And you're right. Your kids are the only ones that have, like, interesting things to say about the situations that you're in or have been in.
I think for the protagonist, the hero, I think that is more appropriate because, like, it's the story of the indeterminable will that you have an objective. Yeah. And that's the mindset that's been presented to you as the player, that this is this character's mindset, that they went through all this terrible shit and they are inheriting their father's quest. That is their one mindset, that this is what it's very narrow-minded. Like, they spent 8 years in the statue just fucking locked in and focused on what they're going to do when they get out of it, apparently. It's more reasonable than your wife character's perception, who is along for the ride.
Yeah.
And gets wrapped up into your bullshit, and then, like, you're just like, let me rescue all of my family members, make everything right, and then go save my mom, because my objective is save my mom, Martha, as a famous movie scene indicated with Batman and Superman. But like, I can understand it from the hero's perspective, and it's like nothing can shake his will. Like, no matter what, he is the ultimate optimist. The ultimate optimist. Like, I will overcome everything. I can do this. He is the most mentally stable person in the planet. And if you want to do that from a Dragon Quest perspective, and you want to hand wave it, fine, I'm with it. But, like, the wife character should at least say, oh my god, this has been terrible. Because they have explored those things within the Dragon Quest game. Like, your mom does that. She explores that. Your dad explores that. Other characters in the world explore that. So I would expect at least a more human response from her, other than your hero character, which I can hand wave that. Your wife's character, it's more difficult for me to just forgive that, what I would call oversight.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was just it's a spell that the game puts on me where you're in these really dark and terrible situations, but the game itself never feels like it fully goes into the darkness.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah.
In the way that, like I said, if this was a different game, I mean, Final Fantasy VI, good example, goes into the darkness for a period of time, like fully goes into the darkness when things are arguably as bad as they are for your character in this kind of Act 2, Act 3 transition period here. But I just never got the feeling that we were fully going to go there. And I agree with your critique. I just didn't expect it at the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. And your character doesn't talk anyway, so what are they actually going to say?
Internally screaming.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a picture of the character as a statue with just a little text box internally screaming. Yeah. For sure.
He's a mass murderer in another town. You just don't know.
Yeah.
Because he's the hero.
After everything, you get out, Sancho and your kids come free you from being a statue. You go free your wife from being a statue as well. You find out along the way, your son, Perry, again in my game, he is the hero of legend. So you actually do have the means and the legendary Zenithian weapons and armor to go fight the ultimate bad and save the land. And there's a bit here. Not going to go through all the beats. It's some MacGuffin chases, getting items, legendary stuff. But there's a bit here when you need to restore the great city of Zenithia. It's underwater. You need to raise it back up into the sky. You need to get this gold orb. And it has a really interesting little time travel thing.
Yeah.
Where I think the emotional beats of this are great. The time travel bits, don't think about it too hard. But the emotional beats of this are great because you remember that as a kid, you had this orb that later was stolen from you later in the game. So yada, yada, yada. You find a way to time travel back, and you as an adult go back and talk to yourself as a kid. And in that moment, there's got to be so much that your character wants to say to your past self. And you can go in the inn and talk to your dad.
Oh,
and you can tell him, like, hey, be careful of this place. And he'll kind of talk to you and he'll be like, you kind of look like my wife. So I'm going to keep that in mind. Obviously, he doesn't change his plans because you don't prevent him from dying or anything like that. But just the little thing where you're like, there's got to be so much that your character wants to say to yourself and to your dad in that moment. But he holds back.
Now, do you remember giving the orb to your older self in the DS when you played through?
Yeah, I remember going through that. Yeah.
Did you talk to him afterwards? Because he does tell you something.
I don't remember if I talked to the kid version of the hero.
No, to the adult version when you were a kid. Because this is a scene that plays out when you're a kid.
Oh, when you're a kid. I don't remember that. No.
So when it depends on the fan translation, so I don't know what's official, but one of the versions says like life is going to be very hard for you. It's like,
oh, okay,
lays out that like, hey, like life is going to crush you. It's like your character is a silent protagonist, but there are moments where versions of your character, depending on your perspective, where they are not a silent protagonist, and it's like life is going to crush you, or like it's going to be very hard. And of course, the first time you play this game, you're like, whatever. Like,
who the fuck is this guy? Yeah.
What is he looks like an older version of myself. This is stupid. And then like you play you play it there, and it's like, oh, okay. So like your character was warned like things are going to suck. And at least in the fan translation I played, PS2 version, your character responds with, I don't care how hard it gets, I'm never going to give up.
There we go.
It's like, again, that indeterminable will. Like, You're Papa's son.
Yeah.
I think that there's another quote within the Fran translation that says that too. No, your kids do that through the talking. It says, at one of the scenes, like, don't worry about me, Dad. You think I'm a little roughed up, but of course I'm your son. I'm not. This is not going to bother me.
Yeah.
And again, it's like that prevailing theme of, like, you're not the hero, but you're the hero. You're the example. And you're not just the example. You're the example based off what your father was. In reality, Papas or Pancras, they're the hero. You're just trying to live up to their legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And now your son, who's a legendary hero, is looking up to you and trying to live up to your legacy and trying to be you. But they are the one that is the prophesized one. So there's layers upon layers here.
Yeah. No, it's a great observation. I think what that was is I probably just forgot because it's, 25 hours later that I see this, I do this thing. But I do remember it now that you laid that out. I remember talking to that character and being like, what are they? All right, sure. Life's going to be tough. I'm tougher. This is an RPG.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting how, there's a concept or just a theme of like role models and looking up to your dad, especially whether it's your character in Pancras or your son looking up to you. Is by the end of the game, my character was still way stronger than Perry was, my son, because he's a little kid. He might be the hero of legend, able to wield the legendary weapons, but I'm still his dad. I'm still stronger than him. I'm like the dad who's like, you're not going to beat me in basketball until you can fucking beat me in basketball, You're
Papas.
Which is very cool. You don't get to see that from Perry's side, but there is little dialogue things where you get actual personality out of your kids in like much more than most other characters that would travel with you. Sancho's just there to hang out. He's just there to help out. But I thought the dialogue for your kids was legitimately good in most of the time when you go in a new dungeon or, return to Gotha, stuff like that. It's all really well done. I just love this. Just love this time travel section for I don't know if they said this when you start the time travel thing, but your character has to know, like, you can't say everything you want to say here. Like, you can't say literally everything that you want to say. Maybe it'll break the timeline, or maybe people just won't believe you. But I got that sense that, like, you want so badly to go into that hotel and, like, not let your dad leave or something like that. But you can't do that. You go chat and then you leave because things have got to play out the way they played out.
Well, I think you get the sense that your character does try to do that, actually. Because because like you said, you go talk to your dad.
Yeah.
But
he disagrees with you, or he says, all right, fine. Like, I'll keep that in mind. Off you go, buddy. And then you get the sense like your character's like, all right, well, that's all I can do without fucking things up.
No, to that extent, yes. Because I don't think I think your character doesn't want to make himself look like a loony. Like, I'm creating a scene. Like, you're not there to create a scene.
Right.
And just be like, oh, I'm from the future. Everyone listen to me. Like, how far is that really going to go? Mm-hmm. Not very far. You can only, even like in the version I played, it was translated to, oh, you're a prophet. Good for you.
Think about how your character's been carrying the loss of their dad with them for the entire game, and then suddenly they're face to face with him in this inn, and it's one of those things that, like, again, so relatable in a way that the game doesn't over embellish this. It's just a simple little text conversation. I don't even think the music changes or anything like that, but you know what's going on in your head.
I think that's what makes it even more special. You fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
You are putting yourself into that character's mind, and you're thinking what they are thinking, but what they are supposed to think. Even though, once again, that character is not you; it's a predetermined character. But you're you're allowed to feel like the silent protagonist. Why people hate silent protagonists is because sometimes silent protagonists are just, they're empty calories. They really don't have anything to add. But the way that they write this character in this example, this is one of those examples, is you're providing the dialogue and the thoughts and the internal feelings that this character is carrying throughout the game within yourself. Like their struggle is your struggle. You're imprinting yourself onto this character. At least I did. And
no, for sure.
And that's like, no, that's not you. You're not actively making any real choices of significance, but you're meant to empathize with them. And that's so good.
That empathy and the relatability of the story and what's going on with the character makes this silent protagonist work so much better than a lot of others. Like I could not imprint myself onto Chrono from Chrono Trigger, for example, at all.
What is there to care about Chrono?
I mean, like there's the friends, there's the group, there's the fate of the world, but I'm not personally invested in those things the way I am in this character.
Sure.
Because of all the shit we've been through with this character along the way and the way they build up to those tragedies and then the way you build yourself back up and all of that. It works in this game. I would have to think harder about this, but I'm just going to shoot my shot because we're talking live. I can't think of a better use of a silent protagonist off the top of my head than Dragon Quest V.
No. Which makes me want to play Terra Enigma because I've heard that's close, but no, I can't think of either.
I forget that he has a very funny name in Terra Enigma, but he's not a character that I didn't care about him.
So no. Okay. Let's say no.
With trying it hard not to piss off all the RPG fans that are still with us. But honestly, this silent protagonist is best in class. I mean, maybe Ness, but it's a very different type of silent protagonist.
Yeah, that's
Ness,
also
Ness
different.
And Lucas. Yeah,
yes,
very different.
Yes. Okay, I would say, Ness is very close, but Ness doesn't go through shit. Kind of. In a
Lucas
way.
goes through shit.
Lucas
Mother
does
3.
go through shit.
But
I need to play Mother 3, but I know enough about it to know that Lucas definitely goes through shit.
Goes through some shit. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. The key to a silent protagonist, got to go through. Chrono goes through some shit too. But I just couldn't relate to Chrono in the same way. Anyway, just another note. When you go back and do the time travel thing, I just like how you talk to your kid self and you're like, hey, give me your nice shiny gold orb. Take this shitty one that I have. Trust me. And the kid's like, yeah, okay. Kids are fucking stupid.
Yeah.
He's a kid. That was funny. Anyway, you gather everyone together. You go to the place where your mom is being held and you have the final confrontation. You save your mom. She dies. She kind of sacrifices her power to help you be able to take on Grandmaster Nimzo. It doesn't make a huge difference, but it's the thought that counts, I suppose, with that.
I mean, you don't know. I mean, she says that her sacrificing herself is going to make it so you can defeat the final boss.
I thought I remembered in the DS version, she does like a spell and it kind of just bounces off of it's either Laja or Nimzo. I don't remember which one you're fighting at the time. Mm-hmm. It's been a minute since I finished the game, but yeah.
So she casts the spell and this is the PS2 version, by the way. She casts the spell and she gets up and she says, okay, because I did this, now you stand a chance against Nismo. He has a different name in the other version, by the way. Okay. Nismo's funnier, but easier to remember. Because I can't remember the other one. But like she says, yeah, because I did this, you're going to actually have a shot against defeating him. And of course, what's the name? Not Gemma. Laja. Yeah. Laja comes in and kills your mom, essentially. Like delivers the final blow. Yeah. And then you kill him because fuck him.
Just one final tragedy on the path here. You finally find your mom. You get about 5 minutes together, and then she dies.
Which was kind of predetermined, and because like she sacrifices herself, much like your father did,
Yeah.
in order to make sure that you complete a task that you're supposed to. So even though the entire game was, I gotta find my mother, you find your mother, and your mother's like, actually, you need to save the world. You know, it goes back to the general trope of you gotta save the world, but that being the flip at the end is really cool, because it could have just been find your mom, grab your mom, and get out of there, which was, it kind of feels like that's your character's prerogative, is I want to go home with my mother. I want to save her. I want to spend time with her. She wants to spend time with me. I want this big happy family I've always been dreaming of. And she's like, there are bigger things than this. Yeah. And like, this is your parents telling you at the very end, because like your father comes back to bring your mother with her and says, it's time to let him and his family do what they need to do for the world. Yep. Mm-hmm. And it's your parents passing on their guidance to you. What is best at the moment? What is the best driver at the moment? They're guiding you until the end. And again, powerful moments that just anyone can relate to. Universal relatability and empathy.
Yep. It's really good. And that was really well said. I have nothing to add to that. And you also played it much more recently than I did. So thank you for filling in those gaps in my memory and in my notes doc, where apparently I got a little too easy with taking down the notes. Who did you use in the final boss fight?
I used main character, son, daughter, golem.
That's exactly what I used, except not the daughter. Sancho was in the final party because he could take more hits than Mei-Chen could. So Sancho was in there. He just used the Sage Ring every single turn, and then he had a buff spell that he would use if I think the final boss had an attack that removed all your buffs. So when it was time to reapply those, Sancho could use those. But it was basically just the protagonist and the golem attacking, and Perry and Sancho healing and buffing. And that is, it was a very long fight. It was like easily 15 minutes long.
That is the exact same story I have, except replace Sancho with daughter.
There we go.
Because she also, the spell is called Oomph, which doubles the attack power for your characters. Right. And then what you call Perry, I'll go with Perry because your show, he casts the spell Insulate, which reduces the damage from fire spells.
Right. Yeah.
And that was Kabuff.
Absolutely essential, the Insulate spell. Also, basically the same party that I used to fight I forget the name, the Behemouse, the giant boss fight that you fight on top of that tower.
Great boss fight, by the way. I love that. I love that guy. He's gigantic. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Same party for me too.
Yeah. Yeah. You see him walking over to the tower and you're like, oh fuck, he's big. This is this is different. So that was cool. Anyway, you beat Grandmaster Nimzo, and then the last thing that I want to bring up, of course, if you have other things that you want to talk about, please say them. But the last thing that I want to bring up is this game gives you a victory tour after you beat the final boss. After you save the world, you get to go from place to place, talk to all your friends again, and just generally enjoy the world that you saved, which feels like it should be more common. Like, I feel like a lot of games these days are too big to do this. After you say you beat the final boss in Oblivion, you're going to walk, or I use Oblivion as a modern example for some reason. You're going to walk around the world and have all the characters have like new dialogue about how you you close the Oblivion gates for good and stuff. It feels like it's a thing that's too rare in RPGs. I can only Earthbound's the only other one that I can think of that does this. And Deadly Premonition. Shout out to Omi in the Retro Hangover Discord for reminding me. Deadly Premonition.
I might be misremembering, but I think Lunar does something similar. The original Dragon Quest certainly lets you do that. Like when you defeat the final boss, you can go to every town and talk to everybody, and they have different dialogue. Yeah, that's an NES game, which is very impressive. I don't know about Dragon Quest 2 or 3 because I hate Dragon Quest 2, so I didn't care after I beat the boss. I'm like, screw this, I'm done with this. Dragon Quest 3 I haven't beaten, and I can't remember Dragon Quest 4. So if it's typical of the Dragon Quest games, no, hats off to them, because that feels really special. Like going to go talk to all these people you've developed an entire game, especially generational. You spent 3 generations in some of these cases talking to people, getting their perspectives, and like I just want to see what they're feeling, even if it's nothing of significance. I can go talk to them and just be like, yeah, I've been to this town a couple times. It's good to see people are doing okay and they're happy.
Yeah. You know,
it's good.
I think it's that generational aspect to it, like you mentioned, that really adds something extra to this version of it, because you didn't just go to the town, you know, where Harry's the prince or whatever. You didn't just go to that town once in Act 1 and then never return there ever again. And then you go back 30 hours later and you're supposed to care about this town. In Dragon Quest V, you've been to that town 5-10 times throughout the course of the game. And so you legitimately, you're familiar with it. It feels like home in a kind of way to go to some of these places. You go to...
And they don't take you to every town.
Right. You go to the big hitters along the way. Like in my case, we went to visit Bianca's town, and I could go talk to Bianca and just kind of rub it in that like we saved the world without her or something. I'm not sure what they're going to talk about. She was happy for you. But you can go to these towns and talk to these people that you've visited repeatedly throughout time. You've seen how things have changed, stuff like that. It makes this victory lap better than, let's say, I don't know, at the end of Final Fantasy VII, if they were like, okay, go back to Midgar now, you can talk to everybody.
That's an ending you're going to pull from, huh?
I don't know. That one's a little bit fuzzy, but like, just thinking of a game where it's like, you leave the place and then you might return, but you might not, you know?
Yeah.
I think you do go back to Midgar. Apologies to the FF7 fans.
But no, you're 100% right. Going back and talking to everybody is great. Just zero complaints there. I think you're right. The generational aspect of it does make it hit harder. But I have nothing to add there. You're totally on point.
I think I might have stolen your thunder there. Was there anything else about, you know, the wrap up, the ending, or anything else about the story that we skipped over that you thought was noteworthy?
Henry's arc in development. He has the probably the best arc in the game as an NPC. Well, he is a playable character, actually. Seeing him going from a snotty little kid and seeing him develop into turning down the throne for his little brother, which he was pretty much deposed for and kicked out for, and seeing his character grow. And the fact that, which is weird, this is a weird thing, that he can't tell you to his face that he considers you to be a friend. And how much respect and admiration he has for you. He has to put it in a note at the bottom of a treasure chest.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that's a commentary on like masculinity in Japan. I'm not sure, but or just masculinity in general. But the fact that he couldn't say it in front of other people, like how much he admires and loves you, and that is something that like really pulled at me.
Yeah.
Like, I can say, you're not my lackey, you're my friend.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, I remember from the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. And he just couldn't tell him that. He had to tell him, hey, I put something at the bottom of the treasure chest. You know where it is. Go take a look at it. And that's what the note says. It's just like, wow. Like that is, there's again, layers upon layers. And it shows how good of a character Henry really is at the end of the day.
Yeah. Harry in the DS version. It took me a second to figure out who you were talking about, but yeah.
It might be Harry. I could be misremembering. I don't know. Harry, that guy.
Yeah. Going from that little shithead who, at the time, you could pretty easily blame him for getting your father killed because he gets kidnapped. He's the bait that ends up, you know, getting your father to fall into Laja's trap. So, and then he ends up being basically your best friend who's not in the party at the end. It's him and Sancho. Those are your dudes at the end of the game, and your kids, I guess, and your wife. But as far as your male friends, Sancho, family friend, but Harry's like your legitimate friend. I was thinking if it was like a social status thing, but you're a king also, so I don't think that really matters. Or you are a king. He is not a king. I don't think that's it. I think it's more of just like a personal inability to express emotions like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's more it, because you do get the same note before you're a king, like after you liberate his kingdom, and like he'll tell you again later. It's going to be the same note. It's like, okay, so it's not a status or class thing. It's just his inability to humble himself publicly. I think that's what it is.
Yep. I just want to note the dance thing at the end when everyone's dancing in the throne room and they play like the final triumphant version of the main overture. That's the word I couldn't think of earlier, the overture.
Yes.
That's really fucking good. Like you finally get to celebrate. And it's your character has earned it throughout the course of this game. You have earned an end of game dance party.
If there's any game where you feel like the characters have earned your main character has earned everything that's happening to them right now, they can be happy. And you know what? There's like no lingering feeling. There's no twist. It's a happy ending. That's fine. Let it be a happy ending. Your character earned it. I don't want anything else. It's been a trek. It's been a voyage. Yep. They did everything that needs to be done. The end.
You know, for someone who came into the game with so little emotional investment in Dragon Quest, I even fairly negative opinion. I'm pretty sure I've been in your Discord server talking shit about Dragon Quest over the years because of my experience with 11. I just, I was bored. I was very bored by that game. I want to try it again. Now I'm at the point where we're at the end of this story. Everyone's dancing in the throne room. The credits are rolling. They kind of scroll through some scenes from throughout the game. They keep to the happy scenes in the credits. They don't show the deaths and the sorrow. But during that point, when they're playing that main overture, it brought tears to my eyes because of the journey that I'd been on and the association that I have with that theme, and by extension, Dragon Quest. Like, I'm in it now. I get it. I get what it is. Even if this story is atypical for the rest of the series, which it might be, certainly is from what I played of 11, even if that's the case, I think I get it. Like, I think I'm in and I'm ready to play more of them. And that just, this game brought me on a total 180 on Dragon Quest as a whole. And I'm happy to have it. Happy to have been through that.
I don't think I've cried more on a playthrough of a game than I have for this in a very long time.
This Dragon Quest V, yeah.
This playthrough specifically. And it goes back to something I said earlier. This is a game that is very emotionally invested. Depending on I think it depends on your perspective on how you approach games and how you look at games. Because I can imagine there are some people that can approach this and get nothing out of this. And I could understand that. I'm not saying that everyone's going to resonate with this the way that I do or you did.
Yeah.
But coming back to this and just looking at the characters and how they develop and what this character is going through and how I can link it to my own personal life or link it on a bigger picture in terms of like the empathy standpoint. Like, there was just this level of relatability that I couldn't shake. And it's just like, this is rough. Like, I'm saying like a lot, sorry, but it's very it's very rough. It's an extremely rough life, and just putting yourself in this character's position and seeing everything that's happening, even if it's put through very colorful aesthetic that's reminiscent of Dragon Ball, Dr. Slump, and Dragon Ball Z. Like, it still comes back in a way that connected with me and will connect with me and will continue to connect with me. And I'm glad I played it so many years ago because I can take that experience and I almost feel that knowing what happens later on, like, accentuates the feelings that I'm feeling. It's very strange because most of the time I feel that spoilers can hurt a game And if you're going into an experience and know what happens, and as I said this much earlier, it can mute that experience. But I don't feel like that is something that happens in Dragon Quest V.
No, I mean, it's it just shows you that the things that they do, the big tragedies that happen, they're not cheap in Dragon Quest V, because if they were cheap, they wouldn't work the second time. If they were all shock, then it wouldn't work if you knew who was going to die when. But the fact that they work, and like you said, arguably work more on repeat playthroughs, shows you how well done the story is. And it's a testament to just simple but effective storytelling. You know, I think that like when we, using the royal we, RPG fans talk about our favorite RPG stories, I think a lot of us might default to like the crazy ones, you know, like the story in Nier Automata is fucking crazy, and I love that story, and I love it for how crazy it is. Dragon Quest V is an example of like a completely different style of story that hits just as hard as some of like, I'm playing Expedition 33 right now. The story is fucking nuts, and I love it so much. But Dragon Quest V doesn't, like, stories don't have to be fucking nuts to emotionally hit with you, because I think the things that emotionally hit with you are going to be those relatable things, whether it's in a wild story like Expedition 33 or a relatively straightforward one like Dragon Quest V, if that makes sense.
No, and I think that is this game's greatest accomplishment, is that it doesn't try to be overly complicated. Yeah. It doesn't try to pull so many twists and turns like Final Fantasy IV. We were just talking, we have talked about here. Which wants to pull a twist every like 3 hours and try to overcomplicate the plot. I love Final Fantasy IV. I'm an unabashed lover of that game. But Dragon Quest V's very simplistic approach to it trumps the plot of Final Fantasy IV, I think, in almost every way. Just because it doesn't try to have any smoke and mirrors for the player. In Final Fantasy IV, both games I love, by the way. In Final Fantasy IV, I kind of lament when Kain turns on you so many times. I don't think that's a spoiler, because that is like a meme at this point for that game, if you have any interest in it. I'm just like, like, you know it's coming, you don't care for it. Dragon Quest V, I know it's coming, and I dread it. Yeah. Because I don't want to, I know it's coming, and I have to experience it. That's the difference.
Yeah. That's the quality of, like we said, simple but very effective, very well done storytelling. So Dragon Quest V, very, very good game. And, a long time ago now, we kind of talked about how it's not the most satisfying gameplay. But again, we're here in the spoiler section. We spent maybe 3 minutes talking about gameplay in total, and just talking about all the things that I think the story does well. A couple things that we had some critiques of, but the important stuff, the stuff we're going to take away from it, it's very well done. So, Chris, thank you for taking quite a long time now to come on the show. We always do long episodes here. To come on here and talk about Dragon Quest V with me. You were the reason, you and the rest of the King of Games 92 crew, you're the reason I wanted to play this in the first place. And the game and the conversation lived up to the hype. So thank you, man.
Oh, it's similar thanks. Thank you for having me on. I'm so grateful you let me talk about Dragon Quest V for so long. I've been looking forward to doing something like this for a long time, and having this opportunity is, it feels really good. So thank you for that, and thank you for everything that you do over here, and thank you for the support that you have for me and Shane over at Retro Hangover.
Of course,
I'm very grateful for everything you do. So thank you.
Yeah, right back at you, man. I appreciate you. And I appreciate everyone who has listened all the way to the end of this episode. If you're still here, you are my hero. As always, one more reminder to check out Retro Hangover. Please look down in the show notes. You'll find links as the music plays us out. You can go click around. Maybe search out those King of Games 1992 episodes to hear more arguments about why Dragon Quest V should knock maybe one of your favorite games from 1992 out of the tournament. But also lots of other great stuff on Retro Hangover. So please go check them out. Thank you, everybody, for sticking it out to the end. Tune in next week for the next game to come out of the backlog.
Hey, you there! This is Nomad speaking. If you love retro video games and you're itching for some nostalgia, check out the Retro Wildlands podcast. In each episode, I'll use game music and sound to pull you into the gaming experience while I share my own thoughts and maybe a few memories. It's a great way to relive one of your favorite games or learn about a new one. Check out the Retro Wildlands podcast at superpodnetwork.com or wherever you listen to your podcast.
Hey everyone, my name's Darren Hupke. I'm a writer, publisher, and podcaster. My podcast is called Pixels and Polygons. Each week I sit down with a guest and ask one simple video game question. It's a random topic each week and it leads to a fun conversation. You can find it on your favorite podcast platform every Friday, and you can read more about it at pixelsandpolygons.net.